waiting for you. And remember to tune in to the Espresso Morning Show weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on S3, and let's start your day right and channel your inner feel good. S3.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, let me say this. This has got to be the political transfer of the season. The Deputy President of the EFF, Floyd Shivambu, resigns, leaves the EFF, and announces that he's joining the MK party. The political transfer of the season may well see some massive realignments, not today, but certainly in the next few years, where it's very possible you may have two large political strands clearly identifiable. The one currently led by the ANC and the other led by the MK party. My name is Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. This is the National Pulse. And as always, we pick up the issues that we know drives the pulse of the nation, and you play a huge role in that. What is it that moves the National Pulse? Connect with us. I'm sure you have lots that you may want to talk about. 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp in voice note or text form 0614 104 107. And you know that you can also post on social media, Facebook as well as on Twitter or the X platform. Do that ASAP. Always like to know where you're listening from. And if you have a picture of you with your dial locked to SAFM, radio dial that is, just send the picture along as well. And by the way, need I remind you, we've got this new WhatsApp channel as well. So if you want to join the WhatsApp channel for the National Pulse, well, just WhatsApp us right away and just ask us to log you in to that channel. So, Mzwanele Manye coming up first, once of the EFF, now of the MK party, is the first guest.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so I did say I think it's the political transfer of the season. I mean, that's just how impactful it has to be. We're going to talk about, obviously, this big issue, and there are so many different angles to it. Ideally, getting the EFF view, the ANC view maybe, but definitely the MK party view, and in particular, certainly the pronouncements of the most significant people in terms of what has already been mentioned. So let's talk about that. First things first. We've got Mzwanele Manye on the line. Good chatting to you. It's been a long while. You're welcome to the National Pulse. Yeah,
indeed. Hi, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. Right now, of course, It was, it's been a dramatic press conference today. We know all about that. But interestingly, your name, together with Floyd Shivambu, has been announced or named as two particular members who've now moved on from the EFF and joined the MK party. Why?
Yeah, look, also just to be clear that I actually resigned from the EFF on Monday, as it were. And I'm actually wanting to support His Excellency President Zuma in his big mission. His mission is to claim back South Africa. He wants South Africa to belong to South Africa. That's what he wants to do. So I want to help him to do that. MK wants to take the fight from where our kings had left it, the issue of reclaiming our land, as it were. So we want a situation where the land belongs to the state, the custodianship of the land belongs to the state, the land must belong to all the people of South Africa under the custodianship of both the state and the traditional leaders. We want to ensure that our kings reassume the role that they've had before, not this thing that our kings and chiefs now, they've become less significant. Even councillors are more important than our traditional leadership. So I want to reaffirm the position of our traditional leaders as a two year.
So, and you couldn't do that through the EFF?
No, I think there's a lot of overlap between the EFF and the MK party. But I think for me personally, I think the MK party is my natural home. Most of the comrades that are there in the MK party are comrades I was with in 2017 when we pushed for the radical economic transformation, which the current ANC has made sure that it undermines all those resolutions. So indeed, the 2017 resolutions of the ANC are the resolutions that form almost the basis for the MK party. So we'll continue from where we left off, and we combine that with the role of our traditional leaders, which have been juniorized.
So if you're saying it is your natural home, and I'm aware of your position historically regarding former President Jacob Zuma, so I get you. What then took you so long? Why not join the MK party when the MK party was just formed?
Sooner, yeah. It's because I got confused in the beginning because President Zuma was saying things about the MK party basically reviving the ANC. And for me, I just saw the ANC basically as indeed a sellout organization. And I just couldn't understand why is it. What is it that President Zuma still sees in reclaiming the ANC? But with the developments to date now, I can see that the ANC is by the way. The big picture now is to reclaim the country, and this is where I come in. And I think I can assist existing President Zuma to get South Africa back.
You made the point that you resigned on Monday. So is your resignation in any way linked to Floyd Shivambu or vice versa, or you've done that independently?
Mine was totally independent. I haven't spoken to him in a while. So I did mine independently, and I'm sure he is also independent. So we didn't caucus. That I can put on the record, yeah.
So we know why you're joining the MK party. Are you surprised at his decision? He's the deputy president, after all, of the EFF.
Yeah, no, to be quite honest with you, I was also shocked, to be honest with you. I never saw him there because I know how passionately he feels about the EFF. I mean, really having been there since 2013 and what they went through before establishing EFF and all the things they've gone through. So, yeah, it would be a lie to say I expected I didn't.
Okay, and then the EFF's head, Julius Malema, made the point that, well, he pronounced that the two of you have gone, but he also said he expects many more to follow and used the word supporters of the deputy president. So how many more will be going?
No, I wouldn't know this, but I can tell you now that I've been receiving numerous calls from a whole range of people across the country that say they want to join the MK party. So I think we'll be very busy in the MK party, strengthening the provinces. I've got a call as far as the Eastern Cape. Only today, people that are watching, that are seeing what's happening in the social media and are watching the news and all of that. I've got calls all across the country. We all have different points of influence, as it were. So all those that have got no problem with my politics are saying, actually, they want to come with me in the MK party. So I look forward to to assisting them to integrate them into the party.
So here's the thought. If we're saying that in many ways the MK party and the EFF are reasonably aligned on many issues, and that's been part of their progressive caucus as well. We know that post the May 29 election, right? Does this suggest as well that in terms of your vision and the vision of many other people that they've had, that it's best served in the MK party and less better served there within the EFF? The point I'm trying to make is, has the EFF reached a dead end in terms of serious growth, considering a new baby party toppled them in one election?
I'm not here to talk about the EFF or good or bad. I'm here to respond on issues on why I'm with the MK, and I can just say that the MK is indeed the future. It's a party that resonates with a lot of people. Empirical evidence attests to that. And I think that a lot of the ANC comrades will see a lot of themselves in the MK. It's a natural transition. You know, I did a bit of survey before on Twitter just to understand why people go this way or the other way. And I took a lot of that into account, what people were saying to me on Twitter. And also, I also noticed that when it comes to professionals, it was like it's a seamless thing for professionals to go into the MK. People I know, they would say to me, look, we'll support you with whatever we have in the EFF and what have you, but in the MK, here is a man that started Black Industrialist program, and we are where we are today because of the program that they started. And others would say, I'm running a construction company, and that company was initiated in the Zuma era. So there are a lot of, black professionals in particular, that have got a lot of livelihood that they got in that era. And today they are struggling with the current administration and all of that. So indeed, there's a lot of real sentiment to say, this is the father of the nation, and if this father of the nation is Reference President Zuma must be assisted, all of us must put shoulder on the wheel.
What position would you like to serve the MK party?
I'm a typical, give a typical comrade response that I'm at the mercy of the organization. The organization will deploy me, and whatever they give me, I'll give it my best shot.
Well, I mean, you've worn so many hats over the years, and you know that, right? So I understand you don't want to talk down on the EFF, but I'm asking an objective question, that this position of two senior leaders, and maybe more, because Malema said so, right, this will damage the EFF. There's no question about it.
That only time will tell. Let's not preempt. Let's not be the prophets of doom. There's space for the EFF in the country. Let the EFF thrive. There's space for the MK in the party. Let the party thrive. The reason we have a caucus is because the two parties and others, we are not threats to each other. We know that for this journey to be traveled, it's better to be traveled together. So indeed, as the MK party will continue to with the EFF. We don't see them as an enemy. We see them as partners in reclaiming South Africa.
Julius Malema made the point about hearing the news of Shivambu leaving and then joining the the MK party, is receiving the type of news that saddened him in the same way that saddened him when he lost his mother, right? Did that response surprise you?
No, it didn't. Like I said, that's why I was surprised, and I could see Julius was. This was like a knife in his heart. They indeed go a long way, the two of them, and all of that. So when he said that, I felt it, and I think he said it genuinely. He means it. This is why I even said to Floyd, now that we've positioned the EFF that once you go, don't come back. But for you, we'll have to just fine-tune the thinking and say, you are the founding member, so you're not in the category of ordinary members, so you are welcome to come back. That just shows that both of them are real brothers, as it were. So indeed, I think we should respect that.
Lastly, do you see now a complete realignment of South African politics? You probably may have heard my intro. I'm suggesting that maybe in 4 or 5 years' time, you'll see the emergence of an MK bloc and an ANC-led bloc, and that will be made up all the different, friends and alliances that fit into those blocks. Do you see that by and large it'll be very clear it's those two blocks and nothing else?
No, I think what actually is going to happen, MK is going to be the only bloc, as it were. The ANC is already dying. I can give you stats. This is what I'm saying is not just some political speech. Look at the numbers. The ANC has been declining. President Zuma left it at 62% and gave it to President Ramaphosa. President Ramaphosa, in no time, he dropped it by 30%.
Mm-hmm.
He took it from 62%, he dropped it to 57%. It was the first time that we see ANC dropping below 60%, because since 1994, the ANC has always been in the 60% range. But President Ramaphosa dropped it down to 57%. Whilst we're still shocked about that, it took it from 57% to 40%. That 17 percentage drop in those points, it actually amounts to a 30% drop. So you can see that it is on a downward spiral in a fast way. And the ANC has got no history of recovery. You can see what happened in the Western Cape, where it lost its stronghold there. And from there, the DA has been growing from strength to strength in that area. So once the ANC dips, they have no history of coming back. So there's no such a thing as MK bloc and ANC bloc. The ANC is dying. The MK party will do all the things that the ANC ever promised to the people. The ANC promised the people a whole lot of things, and it did maybe 10% of that. So the MK party has got a responsibility, because all of us are from the ANC. We're part of those promises.
Okay.
We feel bad that the people that were promised things, those things are not delivered. So therefore, we're taking it as our responsibility that all the promises that the ANC made, the MK party will fulfill.
Okay.
The ANC is too compromised as an organization. It cannot do anything.
All right.
Going further.
Let's leave it at that, and then let's see what happens. One block, no other block, just an MK block. Others, let's see if others buy into that Mzwanile Manye now of the MK party. Thanks for your time.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat him from inside his own half? Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, I'm sure you have lots to say regarding that conversation I had with Mzwanile Manye, former EFF member, now of the MK party. Well, get it off your chest. 086 000 2032. Voice notes you can send out to 0614 104 107. You can also text me to that WhatsApp voice note number, and also post on social media. Use the hashtag The National Pulse. Let's move on to another issue That is significant. We'll actually talk to Naeem Jina next about 3 years of Taliban rule now in Afghanistan, just looking at the implications of all of that, right? There are many other issues that we'll pick up. Here's one saying, I think this strategy to sideline the ANC and the white minority capital, the Manyis, the Malemas, the Impofus and the Shivambus were always dining, eating chicken from Baba's house. First, they must pay back the pensioners' money they stole from Madoda, saying where there's smoke, there's fire. Why is Shivambu leaving when the investigation about VBS is hot from Madoda? Well, we will find out exactly. Soon enough, we'll know exactly what exactly the story is. There's more on that. In fact, maybe there's a call or two we can pick up on. I'll check that out. Here's another related to... here's another one, Ashraf and the team. Great show, fast-paced, informative and empowering, especially for me, enjoying the pulse of the nation. I hear South Africa, strong nation for justice and peace. Well, you speak my language. I can tell it to you absolutely. So thank you for that. Okay, I just want to pick out, in fact, we've got a couple of quick calls we'll take on this issue. I think it's Taki in Limpopo. Hi, welcome to the show. What's your point? Good afternoon. Right, what's your point?
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and thank you for taking my call. Well, what a day. And in fact, I picked up that there was a lot of nerve going on in both those leaders. The EFF, Deputy President himself, for the very first time, he could be that nervous. But having said that, Ashraf, I think I picked up that he was a bit naive to say that he's leaving, but he is leaving for a party that is going to do the same thing, which he should have perhaps managed to do the same thing in the EFF party.
Well, that was the plan. That's why my question, why would you not think the EFF could have done what you set out to do? But he may not answer the way you and me expect, but the reality is clearly they see a bigger picture now. So it does beg the question, where does the EFF stand in all of this, losing two members? One is the deputy president, and Malema said it publicly already. He said, I expect many more to follow. He didn't say I expect one person. I expect more to follow. Yeah.
Having said that, Ashraf, I think we're still to discover more on this issue, because it seems to me if Julius is admitting that there's many more people to leave, that means there's a whole lot more than it meets the eye. One has to really understand that for a person to as a deputy president to leave the party and go and join someone else's party, that's a whole lot. It says a lot.
Well, absolutely. I think when you're spot on. Thanks for that call, Taki in Limpopo. Let's get further thoughts. In fact, here's a question to any one of you. So who's next? We already know that there will be a next from the EFF because the commander-in-chief has said so. So who's next? Churchill in Umtata. Hi.
Hello, my brother.
Yeah, good talking to you. Right, go ahead, your point.
Okay. Yes, when I think MK, EFF, and the ANC, I think VBS, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And somebody said they're all going to fall like dominoes. Those elderly people, some of them have passed away. They must be turning in their graves. That's all that I'm going to say.
They must be turning in their graves, okay? And that's Churchill saying it. When Churchill talks, people listen, if you get my point, right? Thanks for that. Let's get another thought. Impo in Randfontein, again commenting on the big issues, including the chat with Manye. Impo, hi.
No, thank you very much, my brother. I want to be short. I think Mr. Manye didn't give an objective analysis. You were asking a very important question, which is, what is the future political alignment in the country? And for me, is that the liberals will go to the liberals, the so-called leftists will go to the leftists. So that's how the line is going to be.
Yeah, you're right. I don't expect him to, he's not going to say everything. Basically what he said, there'll be no opposition, there'll be one bloc. Now, I know that doesn't happen anywhere in the world unless it's a dictatorship. And South Africa is not that. We have a democracy. So there will always be an opposition, even if it's a 5% opposition. Okay, got that. Thanks for that call, Impo, right? Further opinions, you can feel free to just talk about it, right? Here's another one, and I'd like it when you give your name so we can actually call it out, even if you're texting me saying, Ashraf, the MK party and the EFF are fundamentally one entity, ideologically speaking, unlike the Omnibus African National Congress, of which its ideological stance fundamentally depends on the actual balance of forces. ideologically speaking. Hey, that's like superior knowledge talk with your WhatsApp. Like it's higher language. Let's get another one. Lloyd Lloyd talking about Floyd. Hi, Lloyd.
Yes, how are you?
I'm very good. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Yes. What I see out of this resignation, obviously we don't know the facts. They will come out over time. What I see in this is the realignment within the politics amongst black parties, where the MK is gaining more strength and the EFF is getting weaker, and I think some will migrate from the ANC to the MK as well. I think in the short to medium term, we'll be seeing MK being the leading party in South Africa, even if it's below 50, probably at around 30, in a central position where it will form alliances.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I foresee.
But I mean, okay. So news time, because I mean, thank you for that. I was saying, and I've said this before. I mean, I would see an MK dominant coalition or alliance on one side, and then I would see the current one playing out already, which is the ANC-DA-led alliance playing out on the other side, and that will be the fault lines that would separate the two dominant strands in South Africa's politics. Do you see the same way? Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30 years de Janeiro.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 3:30. The Bloemfontein Magistrates Court has granted Morwadi Choloda bail of 2,500 rand after a lengthy 3-day bail application. In other news, former EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu has not divulged his reasons for resigning from the party to join newly formed Mkhonto Wesizwe MK party. But Shivambu says that the EFF and the MK party both share common values, and the Health Ministry in Gaza says the number of Palestinians killed during Israel's military campaign has risen to more than 40,000. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound in Randburg has a crash at Malibongwe Drive. The N1 northbound in Midrand has a stationary truck after Allendale Road exit, and SKM Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, the N3 westbound, a truck crash reported just before Hammersdale exit with multiple lanes blocked, causing very heavy delays. You are urged to consider using an alternative route. The M13 westbound in Hillcrest is closed between Kassie Road and Key Ridge due to a crash on the N3 west, so expect delays and diversions. The N3 eastbound in Pietermaritzburg has a stationary truck before Market Road. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Moskolnik Drive in Amanzimtoti is slow moving near Galleria Mall. In Cape Town, the M3 northbound queuing towards Paradise Road. The R300 westbound is queuing towards the M3 Jakes Gerwel Drive Junction. Strand Street outbound is slow moving towards High Level Road, and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
So to me, I tell you what, I did say that the Floyd Shivambu moving from the EFF to the MK party is the political transfer of the season. I don't know what's your equivalent of that in your sport.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Let's start things off with cricket. Proteas Test captain Themba Bavuma says that he would like his side to be more ruthless in the batting department in the second test against West Indies. The second test gets underway at the Guyana National Stadium this afternoon, and the Proteas will be looking to build on from where they left off at the Queen's Park Oval. SA are sitting 7th in the World Test Championship, and they need a win to keep their hopes of making the final to stay alive.
I guess to be honest, like any other game, it is important. If I look at our goal when we came here to the Caribbean is to win the series, so we have to do so in the next game. We can't control the elements or the weather or anything like that. All we can control is how well we play and how we rock up, and that's what we'll be trying to do again. We'll have a look at the wicket and try to select a team that speaks to that. But that's really all that we can control and focus on.
Well, kickoff is at 10-4. Then moving on to football, Mamelodi Sundowns ladies midfielder Kolosa Biana believes that the Women's Cup is a great test for the players to gauge where they are on an international level. The Brazilians were defeated 3-0 by Kansas City Current in the opening match of the 4-team tournament that was played in the USA. And speaking to the media after the match, Biana says matches like these will help them improve on all levels.
I think it's great for women's football, especially for us. We need to test ourselves and see where we are at, especially us from South Africa, just to see where we are at and also help us improve, to work a lot of things. I think the exposure for us is great, and there's an opportunity for all players to raise up their hands and see if they are where they are compared to the world best. But I think it was a great game.
Meanwhile, Maritzburg United have changed their name to Durban City after relocating to Durban, and the move comes after a long-running problem that saw them lose their home ground to Royal AM after being relegated. We'll hear from Maritzburg United chairman Farouk Kadodia in the next hour. Meanwhile, Manchester United kick off their 2024-25 Premier League season at home to Fulham tomorrow before Manchester City begin the defence of their title at free-spending Chelsea on Sunday. And new Liverpool manager Arne Slot will be under the spotlight on Saturday with a trip to newly promoted Ipswich for his first competitive game since succeeding Jurgen Klopp. And I've been definitely enjoying the build-up to all the action that's going to be happening in the Premier League. In tennis, Alex de Minaur says that he will play in this month's US Open weeks after withdrawing from the Paris Olympics due to a hip injury. De Minaur pulled out of his Wimbledon quarterfinal against Novak Djokovic last month after sustaining a cartilage tear in his hip in the fourth round. The US Open is set to kick off on the 26th of August. Meanwhile, Yannick Sinner fought off 8 break points as the top seed began the Cincinnati Masters with a 6-4 and 7-5 win over Alex Michelson. Then finally in athletics, the Athletics Integrity Unit has launched an appeal after USA sprinter Arion Knighton was cleared over a doping offense, allowing him to compete at the Paris Olympics. The appeal has been launched with the Court of Arbitration for Sport. He basically tested positive for a banned substance used to grow muscles, and the United States Anti-Doping Agency said that the independent arbitrator ruled that he more likely digested that banned substance by eating contaminated meat. With that said, it's a wrap from my side, but to answer your question, definitely it has to be Kylian Mbappe.
Okay, that's
and
the
we saw how
transfer of the season.
yes, and we saw how well he played with the team yesterday. So
I didn't see. I'll watch the season when the season proper starts, not those Sparza Cups that takes place. But for Man United, if they lose their first game against Fulham, then the season's over. That's all I can tell you. Just so you know that. So it could be a one-day season, one-day wonder. Right, more sport in an hour.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, let's, in fact, we'll pick up many of your calls. Many people want to talk about it, and I really want to ask this question, that what does this say about the EFF? What does this say about the MK party in terms of their ambitions and their futures? What does this say about this realignment we talk about? And maybe here's another one just for you to think about. Who's next? Who's next from the EFF? And I only say that because we're not speculating any longer, because when the leader of the EFF tells you straight out, there will be others who will be joining in, who will be supporting the DP, then you must know that there are others, and they can't just be backbenchers, so to speak. So significant. Let's talk about, as part of our Global Watch, delayed Global Watch compared to normal time, we talk about Afghanistan. It's been 3 years now since the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. Remember, their second time of running that country. So question is, has it been good for Afghanistan, or has their leadership been harmful to the people, to the citizens of Afghanistan? With me is Naeem Jina, senior researcher at the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection. That's MISTRA, of course. Naeem, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you. Perhaps you can start by answering that question. Taliban 3 years on, good for the people, bad for the people?
Well, I suppose one could say it's a mixed bag. I think perhaps the poppy opium story kind of is symbolic in that regard. A few months after they took power in August 2021, they shut down all the poppy farms that were producing the opium. About 10% of Afghanistan's population is addicted to drugs. That resulted in lots of poverty for lots of farmers, but it cut the supply of drugs. So, kind of a good and a bad story. Overall, the 20 years of American occupation was really disastrous for Afghanistan. The Taliban took over a country that was essentially bankrupt, relies largely on international aid, and that continues. Trying to get out of such an economic situation is extremely difficult. But some of the worst atrocities of the Americans, in a sense, have stopped. I mean, the warlordism has been stopped to a large extent, not completely. There's a greater sense of, shall we say, security on the streets, but at the same time, attacks by the Islamic State group continue in Afghanistan, and you have bombings here and there every now and then. There's, while I say a greater sense of security in general, that doesn't mean too much when human security is compromised. And, the fact that incrementally women's participation in public has been rolled back. So first bans on them going to school, then on university, then bans on women in public parks and gyms, and a whole range of other things. So bans on them working in international NGOs, etc. So that has been rolled back there. So it's, in a sense, as I say, a mixed bag, but really one can't expect any substantial improvement in the life of ordinary Afghans until the economy improves. And that's not going to happen as long as the United States keeps frozen more than $7 billion of Afghan funds, as long as no one recognizes the government for Afghanistan, which means that they can't get loans, and the aid is limited, etc. So, all of the politics also plays into the very difficult situation that Afghans find themselves in.
So one can debate some of the things you've mentioned, and yes, I think with the issue in Afghanistan, like in many other countries, you can also talk about or question the issues about human rights. So, but I'm not asking that question. The question now is, you're saying, that aid it's been frozen. It'll be unfrozen if the country is recognized. So what stops the Taliban-led Afghanistan from being globally recognized? What's preventing it?
So there is UN aid coming in, a huge amount of UN aid that is coming in, but the non-recognition kind of makes the aid situation worse, because there could be more aid coming in, etc., and getting loans and that kind of thing would only happen if they are recognized government. What stops it is that the Americans, after their withdrawal, firstly, refused to recognize it, ensured that the United Nations Security Council would not recognize Taliban as the government, and so has left officially Afghanistan without a government. The government that was in place at the time of the American occupation was essentially a puppet government, which its leaders all fled and took refuge elsewhere, and many of its officials went to the United States or got dumped by the US. But officially, if there isn't a government that is recognized, financial institutions, etc., are not going to consider that seriously, which means, to a large extent, Afghanistan is left, or Afghan people are left to their own devices.
So a country isolated, in effect?
Politically isolated, yes. And as I said, the money that they have in American banks, that is frozen.
Yeah.
So that's about $7 billion.
And is anybody lobbying for them? You know, for the money in the banks to be unfrozen, to be given off to them. Are there pressure groups globally lobbying for the Afghanis, or is that, it's not our problem?
No, there isn't. I mean, the lobbies that you find in the West kind of cherry pick issues. And so, for example, you find lots of lobbying around women's education in Afghanistan, which, of course, is correct perspective. But you can't divorce that from the bigger picture. And no, there isn't that kind of lobbying. There's been 3 rounds of talks around the future of Afghanistan that took place in Doha in Qatar. The 3rd round a few months ago, the Taliban finally attended. They were not part of the first 2 rounds. They attended this one, and one of their main issues was about this, about the recognition, so that they can help to improve the status of their citizens, and about the frozen funds. But that hasn't got anywhere yet.
Let's talk about women in public life in Afghanistan. When the Taliban took over this time round, I remember the leadership saying they will not make some of the mistakes, and maybe I'm paraphrasing here, in terms of the mistakes they made in the past, where they completely shut off women from public life and all forms of learning and education and fun. And initially the plan was to be a lot more tolerant. I mean, why has that change happened? I mean, if I heard what you said in your intro, then all those liberties, if I can call it, have been removed anyway.
Rights rather than liberties. Yes, so they made a number of promises, and there were many of us, and I included, for example, at the time, who said, okay, they're making these promises, let's give them a few months and see how they do. So one was around the whole issue of the role of women in public life, and particularly the issue of women's education. And they gave kind of guarantees that will continue, and made statements that they will rule according to Sharia, and that according to Sharia, according to Islamic law, women's education is guaranteed, is sacred, etc., etc. They walked that back, as I said, incrementally. Another, for example, assurance that they gave was that they didn't want to dominate power, that they will put together, not the terms they used, but basically a government of national unity kind of thing. That hasn't happened either. And so a number of these kinds of promises that they made, firstly to their own people, and secondly to other states and to the global public, has not manifested. Part of the reason is that, while the Taliban's kind of face is a united one, that internally they are factions. The faction that was leading the negotiations in Doha is the one that gave all of those guarantees and made those promises. But that wasn't the faction that attained political control back in Afghanistan.
And okay, point made. Just the last thing to wrap up then. In terms of what you've just said, it does suggest, whether you want to call it a government or a law enforcement agency, whatever the ideologies that is being imposed on Afghani women, it is being implemented, right? That means there are people who are implementing. There's a form of implementation that takes place that works for them. Doesn't mean it's working for the country, but it works in terms of what they want to happen.
Effectively, the Taliban is a government. They have law enforcement, they have an army, they collect taxes, everything that the government would do. Yeah.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. Naeem Jinnah, appreciate your time, senior researcher at MISTRA, reflecting on many things. In this case, the Afghanistan government, the Taliban-ruled Afghanistan government. What do you make of it? How much do you know about what's happening in Afghanistan right now on all things, not just the issues of women, but as Naeem has suggested, certainly on the issues of the drug trade and how that has been curtailed considerably. The fact that overall it's safer, but there's also been isolation as well. Any thoughts? Any personal anecdotes? Anything you can tell us, feel free to comment. 086 000 2032, WhatsApp, text, voice notes 0614 104 107. But of course, if you want to talk about the Libyan nationals who are being sent home, that's fine. And if you want to talk about the EFF leaders now going to a new home, that's fine too.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior, this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior, this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Tamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Right, this is another issue that may well surprise you as we talk about the issues that has a complete impact on what the nation feels, on the pulse of the nation. The show is the National Pulse. I wonder what your pulse rate's feeling right now. And I'm talking about the NPA's decision to withdraw its case against 95 Libyan nationals who were arrested in connection with an illegal military training campaign in Mpumalanga, saying that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute them. So what happens next regarding this issue? Advocate Mtunzi Maga with me, who's the spokesperson for the NPA. Advocate Maga, goodness, it's been a long time. Good chatting to you.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your listeners. Indeed, it has been a long time since we had a conversation.
I know. All right, but this is a conversation that puzzles all of us here. You know, I understand there's been a court ruling that they're going to be deported, these Libyan nationals. But in this case here, the case has been withdrawn because of no evidence. Isn't that puzzling?
What happened, Ashraf, is that law enforcement arrested them in contravention of the Immigration Act. Obviously, after discussions with Home Affairs, there were also allegations of other criminal activities that they may have conducted around the area where they were arrested. The prosecutors then received the docket and evaluated the evidence that was available and holistically came to a conclusion that those charges that they preferred could not be sustained with the kind of evidence that was at their disposal. It was on that basis that the charges were withdrawn. However, in respect of the planners, the organizers, and the financiers, there is a decision taken by law enforcement with the prosecution to say the DPCI must continue to conduct investigations into a possibility of criminal activities that may have been conducted by those. If there's evidence that comes into the possession of law enforcement, the state will consider that and make a determination.
And when you talk about insufficient evidence, and what were you looking for, and why was that seemed insufficient?
We were looking for evidence that could sustain the charges relevant and admissible in a court of law that could back up the allegations that were made against them. Unfortunately, we hit a snag and couldn't sustain those. Unfortunately, I can't go into details in terms of this and that because there's still an ongoing investigation by the DPCI in respect of the planners, organizers, and the financiers.
Okay, of course, I was going to ask you about, give me some examples. So you're saying you can't say that, but if the one thought was that these are people who are not just doing ordinary security training to try and beef up a suburb, but security at a military level, wasn't that a very obvious thing that one could see?
No, it wasn't as obvious as many had thought. And remember, in a court of law, you are as good as your evidence. It's not about what you know or think, it's what you can prove in a court of law. And we're in a situation where those charges could not be sustained at all. And the only decision that we could take was to withdraw the charges.
Now, I notice, and I'm not suggesting social media is like the be-all and end-all of life, okay, but immediately, since we've heard this announcement today, it's like, oh my goodness, we've sort of botched the case here. Is that the case?
No, I wouldn't really say that. Remember, we are the prosecutorial component in the scheme of things, and arrests and investigations are done by law enforcement, who then bring the matter to us. We then continue to liaise with them and Home Affairs and try to close whatever loopholes we find, get additional evidence, and in this one, we just could not sustain the charges. Hence, we decided no ways, we can't proceed with the matter.
Let's talk about the decision to deport them. I mean, that doesn't fall within your ambit, does it? But I believe that's going to happen.
It's with Home Affairs. I think they're best placed to unpack the process that will unfold.
And maybe just the last thing, what more can you tell us, if anything, regarding that the security company organization who was doing the training in the first place? If they were not Libyan nationals, and then who are they in South Africa, and what happens to them?
There is an ongoing investigation by the DPCI that is working closely with the prosecutors that assist with the matter. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to disclose the details of that kind of an investigation.
Understandably. Perhaps that's the last thing here. What for you, just in terms of what you can share, what are the big lessons to learn from this issue?
What is important is a close collaboration between law enforcement and Home Affairs and the prosecution, so that when the matter is approached, it's objectively approached, looking at all corners holistically.
Okay, and that's where we can leave it. Mthunzi Maga, appreciate your time. And then we have it. So the actual case against the Libyan nationals for effectively coming for military training in South Africa, that one's been squashed. But Home Affairs now deporting them. There's lots of shady stories around that one. And as you've heard, the advocate spokesperson can't actually comment on that. But certainly in terms of what we know, that case appears dead for now. Right, further comments and calls on some of the biggest issues that we've been talking about in the country. Let's just see if I can do that. I appreciate you giving your thoughts, because we certainly want your opinions. You do move the pulse with your opinions.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the SAFM listeners. You see now what is going on with the EFF. Those looters will go to MK because they know it's their home. All the looters will go there. Mark my words. It's DTN here. Thanks.
Okay, that's one.
Ashraf, if you can play an interview where Mzwanele Manyi was interviewed when he joined the EFF. He gave a very similar speech where he was singing the Cardinal Pillars. And listen to him now that he's joining MK. He is singing their manifesto. This guy is brilliant. And he jumps from this house to that house. But good luck to him. Thanks, Spongy here.
Ashraf Garda from Daunian Lekale Machonisa. I never thought that Fletchy Bambo could join the MKP. Well, I was expecting him to join any other political party, to those political parties that are at Parliament or outside Parliament. But as for him to join the MKP, to me, I found it difficult to understand the reason as to why he decided to go to that party instead of any political party for that reason. Because he used to tell Mr. Zuma to pay back the money at the parliament. The question is, what went wrong? What made him to believe that Mr. Zuma will be the best leader, or he will be a different leader as compared to the previous one? Thank you.
Right, Garda, thanks for those comments. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, just picking it up in terms of, as you're saying, the looters will follow. Well, I'm not going to comment on that. Let's see what comes up. I thought that point, singing their manifesto, is really cute. Well, you're right. I mean, Mzwanele Manye, Jimmy Manye, is Julius Malema reminded us again. I mean, he's been at different political parties, different hats in the last few years, right? And that last one, I mean, that you've raised about Floyd Shivambu, I think that the fundamental question right now to ask is, why does Floyd Shivambu not see his vision being played out through the EFF? That means, why does he see his vision beyond the EFF? And what has he been promised for him to actually move to another party? Because remember, he's the deputy president of the EFF. So potentially he could be the president. He could well be the president of the country one day. You know, things change like that. So what has he been promised? It's an important question. I think we'll find out the answer, I would think, pretty soon. Let's get to the news now. It's 4 o'clock.
Top stories: Magashule's former PA granted bail and Gaza death toll surpasses 40,000. With the news, I am Dino Mutaung. Good afternoon. The Bloemfontein Magistrates Court has granted Morwadi Chulota bail of 2,500 rand after a lengthy 3-day bail application. Magistrate Estelle De Lange told the court that she didn't think Chulota was a flight risk, as the NPA had argued. Chulota is the former personal assistant of the then Free State Premier Ace Magashule. The 37-year-old has been charged with fraud, corruption and money laundering, along with 16 other accused, including Magashule, in the 255 million rand asbestos removal project case. Former EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu has not divulged his reasons for resigning from the party to join newly formed Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. But Shivambu says the EFF and the MK Party both share common values. He says he will actively serve in the MK Party and shape its direction and politics. Shivambu was speaking at a press briefing in Johannesburg.
I know jointly defines the EFF and Umkhonto Wesizwe Party. It's anti-capitalism, it's anti-racism, it's anti-sexism, it's anti-colonialism. And those, an anti-imperialist character as well, the rule of law. And those are the values which I know I can say this because these are values that commonly characterize the political parties.
In other news, 2 children have been severely burnt in a fire last night at an apartment in Kempton Park on Gauteng's East Rand. It's alleged that the children's parents had left the premises to buy food, and when they returned, they found the apartment engulfed in flames. A witness who is a tenant at the apartment building says they took the children to hospital.
Now we had to rush the kids to Arvin for emergency care because we called the ambulance, we called the firefighters, but they took time, so we didn't have any choice because we see that the kids are suffering. So we had to take the kids in their state. We just put them on top of the jackets, cover them, and then we took them to Arvin Hospital. Indeed, when we get there, we got an emergency help. I won't lie, everyone was like helping us. Everybody was hands on his when we get to Alfred. And then when we get there, the other one, which is the first one, who's turning 4 years, was later transported to Tembisa Hospital.
Lastly, the case against a man accused of killing his 39-year-old girlfriend in June in Kimberley in the Northern Cape has been postponed to next month. The Kimberley Magistrates Court postponed the matter due to the unavailability of the accused lawyer. Mpimetse Baletseng filed this report.
Alistair Van Wyk made a brief appearance at the Kimberley Magistrate Court for what was meant to be his application. For the past 2 days, Van Wyk's lawyer has failed to be in court. Alistair Van Wyk allegedly killed and raped his girlfriend in a blanket and hid her body in his shack for some 3 days. He is remanded in custody. Mpimetse Baletseng, SABC News.
And further afield, the health ministry in Gaza says the number of Palestinians killed during Israel's military campaign has risen to more than 40,000. The officials say more than 92,000 people have been wounded since the conflict began last October. The General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative, Mustafa Bagouti, says the figure is verifiable.
This number is absolutely correct because each of the 40,000 names are published. They are recorded. Each name has a photo of the person who was killed and an ID number. So I have no doubt whatsoever that the number is correct. The problem is that there are 10,000 other people who were killed who are not recorded yet because they are missing under the rubble.
Recapping the top story, the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court has granted Morwadi Cholota bail of 2,500 rand after a lengthy 3-day bail application. Magistrate Estelle de Lange told the court that she didn't think Cholota was a flight risk, as the NPA had argued. Cholota is the former personal assistant of the then Free State Premier Ace Magashule. Headlines at 4:30 for SFM News. I am Dino Mutaung.
Coming up in your sports this hour, revamped Cape Town servants return and Cadodia confirms Maritzburg United name change to Durban City. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M2 eastbound in central Johannesburg has a crash reported near Heidelberg Road exit. The N1 northbound in Randburg has a crash at Malibongwe Drive. The N1 southbound in Sunninghill, a crash reported there as well on the off-ramp to Rivonia Road. And the N1 northbound in Midrand, a stationary truck reported after Allendale Road exit. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a truck crash reported just before Hammersdale exit. Multiple lanes have been blocked, causing very heavy delays, and you're asked to consider using alternative routes. The M13 westbound in Hillcrest is closed between Kassie Road and Key Ridge. That's due to a crash on the N3 west, so expect delays and diversions. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound has a crash reported near that M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound has a crash near Milner Road. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The R300 westbound queuing towards the M7 Jakes Haddle Drive junction, and Brighton Road is slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior, this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior, this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Here he comes. Hello, guys. You're so dramatic. Hey, bro, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit. The leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge. Wow, now that is extra.
Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Donga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat, on and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, every day that I've hosted this show, the National Pulse, since for the last 4 months, in fact, now. Every day has been eventful. There's no question about it. There's never been a single boring day. Myself and Keys and Temba were talking about it in the debriefing session yesterday, right? So there hasn't been. But other days are just bigger than the average day that is not boring at all as well. So some days are can I call it monumental? I would think one of these days are today. So we're going to have further comment on the issue regarding Julius Malema's party, the EFF, and the fact that he's got a key member of his party, the deputy president, who's now not with the party any longer, and he's moved on to another party. So on the line now is Nlamula Ndlela, the MK party spokesperson. Good chatting to you as always. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So I said at the outset, some days are just far more monumental than others, and this is why I've said that.
Just to give clarity so that there is no speculation, I've decided not to renew the membership of the EFF because I will join and participate in Umkhonto Wesizwe party. I am not going to speak here in Winnie Madikizela Mandela House as to what is the basis of that, because that will be tantamount to campaigning already for Umkhonto Wesizwe party. So I'm going to be actively involved in Umkhonto Wesizwe party and shape its direction and the politics that are obtaining today in South Africa. So that is to end the uncertainty or speculations that have been obtaining in terms of what is going to happen. There is no specific position that has been assigned to me. There is no commitment or any promise of deployment to parliament or to anything. It's a decision that I have taken, and I think and believe that it will add meaningful value to the progressive and revolutionary politics that must be pursued by all the progressive forces in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's the voice of Floyd Shivambu, and if you've missed it, well, how could you miss it? It's the biggest story of the day. Could well be the biggest story of the month, maybe the biggest post the election, and the conversation around GNU and a multi-party coalition, right? So we know that he's now left the EFF. We also know that he's joined the MK party. We know the same thing has occurred with Mzwanele Manye as well, now member of the MK party. So in Nlamula, I was suggesting earlier on, and I'll repeat it to you, that in effect, this is, in football terms, this is the political transfer of the season.
Good afternoon again, Ashraf. Sorry, you were saying that this is the...
I was saying in football terms, Shivambu's move away from the EFF to the MK party is akin to the political transfer of the season.
Oh, I didn't know that they would be referring to politicians as galacticos, I guess.
Well, there you are.
They are galacticos. They are galacticos such as President Zuma, naturally, yes. But look, I think it's a win at the end of the day for all political parties in the Progressive Caucus, for instance. Naturally, the two members who are joining us, would be able to, would probably be restricted in certain inputs towards the MK party as the official opposition. This can only bolster, our strategic and sharpen our strategic posture and our strategy outside as well as inside of Parliament. Remember, we're dealing with comrades here who are highly educated, have got a very good background in terms of politics, and understand the political landscape very well. So it's a win for the Progressive Caucus in Parliament, Progressive Caucus outside of Parliament, and I think for the advancement of a revolution overall.
Okay, now it's very clear, Floyd Shivambu made it clear in terms of his position on a range of issues. You don't have to repeat them now because they're not important now, accepting that it's clear that he didn't see that vision being realized within the EFF, and he does see that being realized with the MK party. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, look, naturally he will share those insights with ourselves, because in order for him to make that distinguish the difference or his views, that had to come from him having identified with MK policies, EFF policies, where they where they dovetail and where they don't, and maybe where they need to be dovetailing. And he'll give us some of those insights when he comes on board. And this is part of how we go, in ensuring that we bolster the team to advance our agenda.
Now, some may say, I mean, the policies of the two parties are very similar. They're not exact, but they overlap, and that's why they've been able to be in alliance already, as they certainly are, right? But outside of that point, how important is it that outside of policy, the attraction would be working with the big players? Now, you made the point about the Galacticos early on, so I'll stick with that same analogy. How significant is it that Jacob Zuma heads up the MK party, and therefore Floyd Shivambu, in fact, will be playing in the same space with him as opposed to being with Julius Malema? Because that must be significant.
When you say came in the same space with him, can you give clarity on that?
Well, when I say playing the space, they're together. They'll be in one party, plotting and planning for the benefit of that party and that ideology. So they're in the same team.
Look, then, yes, naturally so. They're going to be on the same team. We are in the same team. And let's not forget, EFF is in the same team. So, and that's what the Progressive Charter aims to achieve. A team of progressive forces that aim to liberate our people, and obviously having the best minds at doing so. So this could possibly be more than one coming from other parties. But again, we don't want tendencies from parties such as the ANC and those, tendencies where people behave in certain ways that are going to be alien to how we run things here. And we want leaders who are going to be disciplined, and we're going to toe the party line and ensure that we advance the organization, not individuals. So again, this is not about individuals. This is about what we stand for and what we want to achieve.
But it's also fair to say, and maybe a difficult one for you to answer, that as you part of this, this alliance between the two parties, I mean, it's not rocket science to acknowledge that this does weaken the one party. There's no question about it. For all the reasons that you've praised Floyd Shivambu at the outset, this weakens an alliance partner.
No, but I mean, we cannot just praise Floyd without praising Julius Malema. I mean, he's done an exceptional job. He's a great politician alongside his other colleagues. So that's what I'm saying. This is not about individuals and the impact that they have within the party. I don't think, Floyd Shivambu's, exit, well, some may want to see it as an exit, or him, engaging and being a member of MK will change a lot. As the CIC mentioned, with the leader of the EFF, said, this is not the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of a new future and a new roadmap for EFF. So we should not see it as it being weakened. I'm sure there's a whole lot more capable South Africans or equally capable that can take up the reins.
Now, Julius Malema made the point that others will follow. He's not suggesting it could happen. He's suggesting it's going to happen, and specifically made the point about they are supporters of the deputy president. So how many more are you expecting?
You mentioned the deputy president. Did you hear that particular point?
Talking about supporters of Floyd Shivambu.
Oh, supporters of Floyd Shivambu.
Yeah.
Look, responding to that, again, would be responding in hypothetical terms. Again, he's obviously a high-profile member. Chances are there may be other members of the EFF that may want to join MK. Again, that's, we leave that up to speculation. People are able to, and they're allowed to, it's got a Bill of Rights, and the Constitution allowed to associate themselves with whichever party and vote and campaign for whatever party. As is the case, by the way, with President Zuma. So, in other words, they probably will be joining, and we may not be able to exactly come to account as to how many, because most people join via the website, for instance.
Mzwanele Manyi has already said in my conversation with him earlier that many people have contacted him today. He's suggesting those numbers could be substantial, but I'll leave it to see how that plays out. Perhaps the more significant question here is that you've got a person who's the deputy president of the EFF, then moving to another party. In terms of what position does he get next? Now, clearly, it's common sense. He can't be a backbencher in a new party. He's got to be offered a prominent position to be able to entice him to that party. It just has to be. You know that, and I know that.
You're putting words in my mouth, Ashraf.
In fact, I'm not. I'm asking you a question. I'm just saying I think it's obvious. It's common sense.
No, that's what you're saying. You're saying I know that and you know that. All I can say is that what we both know is that, yes, he is senior. and his contributions are definitely going to be extremely valuable, not just to MK, I think the caucus overall, and including what we're trying to achieve here. And in order for his inputs to have an impact, naturally he'd have to come in at a role that allows him to do so, have an impact. So, of course, we've said, and we said in our statement, that we deploy comrades in the various areas we believe that they'll add the most amount of value. And nothing is different in this case.
Where do you think he would add the most value, Shivambu?
Well, he is a senior comrade, he's a senior politician, isn't he? So that naturally means that he'll play in a senior role within the party.
Just the last thing, it's a point I brought up earlier as well, that I see that coming 5 years from now, 5 years, 7 years, that this marks a clear realignment of South African politics. On the one side, an MK-type dominant ideology, and on the other side, the current situation already between the ANC and the DA and all other parties. And in fact, we have two blocks that are competing for our votes. I mean, do you see the same thing?
To be honest with you, again, so-called GNU, because that's exactly what it stands for. It's a government of neoliberal unity. I mean, the policies totally opposite ends of the world between the ANC and the DA. Helen Zille herself said there is no such thing as a GNU, it's just a grand coalition. So this is bound to fail, and it's just sad, what do you expect, that a person such as Cyril Ramaphosa had an opportunity to consolidate, a black formation of progressive parties and ensure that there's a two-thirds majority. Instead, he takes the black vote and contributes and barters with it to save his own skin from impeachment with the DA. So what we see here is that the ANC at some point, once clearly this is how it's going to go. It's either he resigns, he's going to get knifed, forming part of what I'd call the three-spear formation.
The what formation?
The three-spear formation. Okay. MK, EFF, and the ANC. So that's bound to happen. There's no doubt about that. That's just
But will that happen? Did you say with or without Ramaphosa?
Ramaphosa, it cannot happen with a sellout. You have seen he has taken the black vote, his own voters, and given a racist party power to save his own skin. He has taken the ANC and made them join the Moonshot Pact. It's a Faustian pact. That's exactly what it is. It's a deal with the devil. So you can't have a person such as that as a leader to liberate black people when he himself doesn't see himself as a black man.
Okay, let's leave it at that, sir. Enjoy your time rolling out your new Galactico. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. Ndlamulo Ndlela, the MK Party spokesperson, reflecting on, one, Mzwanele Manyi joining the MK Party, but significantly the former deputy president of the EFF now, joining the MK Party. We're talking about Floyd Shivambu. Question is, what happens next?
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, lots of comment, lots of commentary on from a range of issues. Let's pick up one of these.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, the criminals are now running to the part which has no accountability. They are going today to Switzerland. Switzerland, you can never be accountable. That's where they are going now. They are running away. There they won't be accountable. They know it's a safe haven for criminals. No man from Brixton.
Hi, afternoon. There are too many things to this whole thing of resignation from EFF. But I do support the resignation of Floyd Shivambu and others. But the question is, what is the point of leaving EFF for MK? Because those are the opposite of the same coin. The things that Julius Malema do are the same things that Jacob Zuma does. And then both parties are also facing the challenges, same challenges, of dictatorship. So, but the other thing is that I think Floyd has committed a political suicide. And then we welcome his resignation, but going to MK is not an option. It's a political suicide. You should have swallowed his pride and gone back to the ANC. And then, yes, that's my submission. active citizen in Polokwane.
Okay, active citizen. How interesting is that? He's going to commit, or he has committed political suicide by going to the MK party. Some may say, but that's the party that's growing, not the ANC that you referred to. So the ANC just plummeted by 17% in the last election. Do you really think so, that Floyd Shivambu is committing political suicide? Do you think, does anybody believe he should have stayed exactly where he is? Because, I mean, here's the speculation. What has got him to actually understand that his vision, his political life and ambitions fall outside the EFF? Nobody can say that this is just part of a strategy. No, not when Julius Malema says that this was like as difficult to accept as when I heard that I'd lost my mother. Let's let's get into other issues now, and that is the all-important issue around Morwadi Cholota's bail application, right? So, as you know, it's been continuing in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. With me today is Refilwe Mekoya, who's the Mekwa, rather, let's get it right, SABC News reporter. Appreciate your time, Refilwe. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right, give us the highlights of, if I can call it highlights of today's conversation that took place and procedures at the court.
Yeah, okay. So the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court granted Morwadi Cholota 2,500 bail earlier on during heads of arguments. The state actually indicated to the court that if perhaps she is being granted bail, she shouldn't be granted bail of that amount, of which she's the one who suggested the 2,500 one. They said that based on, her charges and the co-accused who were released on about 50,000 to 500,000 bail, she should also be granted the same amount. However, the defense did tell the court that she can't be compared to her co-accused who are businessmen, who are also politicians. Also, what transpired in court earlier on was that through her legal representative, Cholota mentioned that she never knew anything about being a state witness in this matter of the asbestos issue, stating that she only found out in public through the media when it was mentioned. However, the state did argue that state witnesses or any kind of witnesses are never told or prepared prior in terms of whatever matter that they'll have to, give evidence. So also, Cholota argued that she felt that she was being humiliated, her reputation was tarnished, and she was ready to stand trial so that, she can argue her side and sort of state her side that she didn't know anything about the asbestos issue. Ashraf?
And how did she come across?
She was very calm. Since day one, on Monday, her first appearance from her extradition that happened last week Thursday, she has been calm, always blowing kisses to her family and loved ones. However, she was also impressed, others indicate, with her legal representative whenever they were tabling their arguments, and also she seemed extremely happy. She even shed a tear when the magistrate gave her judgment and granting her bail, because we do remember that she has been in custody for 4 months now. Before her extradition, she was detained in the United States of America. So she was really relieved that, finally she'll probably be with her loved ones. Ashraf?
Was there a political presence there? I'm thinking about people like Ace Magashule.
No, not at all. But I did see his son, Tshepiso Magashule, and family members were there, but no one who is politically aligned was there.
Okay. What happens next?
So what happens next is that her family paid bail today of 2,500. She's been released, and then tomorrow they'll briefly just go into appear for formalities so that the matter now can be escalated to the Fifth State High Court, where this exact case is or is expected to trial for next year. That is what is going to happen.
Okay, and that's where we can leave it. Appreciate your time. And it's certainly a story we're going to follow. Refilwe Mekwa, the SABC News reporter. The bail set at 2,500 rand. Someone said that's very little, but fine. You can comment. Certainly would like to get your opinions. Let's get some thoughts on some of the biggest issues, and the biggest issue of the day in terms of what drives the national pulse has got to be the story of the EFF. It's a caller in Harry Smith. Hello. So caller, hello, you're live, yep.
Yeah, there's no more time, man, and I've got a lot to say. Why are you giving me just 2 minutes?
No, we can't. We're going to give you 1 minute with respect, not even 2 minutes. I'll tell you why. You're not a guest, you're a caller. The guests, we give them 5 minutes.
Okay.
You must respect that.
All right. Yeah, no.
I'm laughing as I'm saying it, but please understand it. That's really how it is, yeah.
Okay, no, to this lady who got the bail for 2,000 is nothing. That 2,000 compared to 250 billion is nothing, bruh. At least if it was 100,000, it was something. But nevertheless, there's nothing we can do. I want to comment on this. These guys who are saying ANC is dead.
Okay, go ahead.
Nah, he mustn't come here with a liar. There is no ANC who's dead. The only person who's dead is that criminal, Jacob Zuma, who's going to die before. I don't know. So to this guy who's the vice president of EFF.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he can see he can't eat now. He want to go and eat to the criminals. So I think he's on the right place where he can do the bad things.
Okay, well, you've got it all worked out. Okay, we're going to leave it at that. I'm going to get to news time. Thanks for that call. So call on Harry Smith. He's got the entire story worked out. And you know, one of the good things about the show is we get the diversity of calls to come with a diversity of opinions. And I'm sure wherever you are, anywhere in the country, you're nodding in approval or disagreeing. But hey, it's called the National Pulse. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 4:30.
For the headlines at 4:30, I am Dino Mataung. Good afternoon. Advocate Dalimpofu has argued that the SABC's use of the term Government of National Unity violates the rights of citizens. Mpofu is representing the MK party and its leader Jacob Zuma at the High Court in Johannesburg. In other news, Floyd Shivambu is yet to tender his resignation with Parliament as an EFF MP. He's one of the 2 EFF members who resigned from the party this week to join the MK party. And Japan has lifted a week-long warning that urged people to prepare for a potentially major earthquake along the country's Pacific coast. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hoos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview is queuing on the link to the N12 East at Gillilees interchange. The N1 northbound in Diepkloof has delays on the link to the N12 East at Diepkloof interchange. Main Reef Road westbound in Crown has a crash before Press Avenue. Kleurkop Road eastbound has delays towards Sierfontein Avenue. In central Johannesburg, the M1 southbound is slow moving towards Crown interchange, and the M2 eastbound has a crash near Heidelberg Road exit. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Pietermaritzburg has a stationary truck before Market Road. Umgeni Road eastbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. Moskolnik Drive in Amanzimtoti is slow moving near Galleria Mall. The N3 westbound has a truck crash just before Hammersdale exit reported. Multiple lanes have been blocked. Heavy delays in that vicinity, so consider using alternative routes. The M13 westbound in Hillcrest is closed between Cassie Road and Key Ridge due to a crash on the N3 west, so expect delays and diversions. The M4 northbound is queuing towards Virginia Airport, and the N3 westbound has a crash reported near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, Govan Becky Road is closed between Crossroads and Symphony Way. The M5 southbound has a crash reported near Milner Road. The M3 Philip Khosana Drive outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving towards Voortrekker Road, and the R300 westbound is queuing towards the M7 Jakes Havel Drive junction. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Minister of Sport, what are we're talking rugby, right?
Yes, we start things off with rugby this hour. Olympic bronze medalist the Blitzboks will be back in action on home soil during the popular Cape Town leg of the World 7 Series on the 7th and the 8th of December. Now, World Rugby announced today that the 2025 7th season will again start with the traditional opening double round of Dubai and Cape Town, set to kick off from a sell-out event at the Olympic Games in Paris last month, where both the men's and and the women's events at Stade de France delivered record attendances. Now, the event has returned to its former format of 2 action-packed days on one field, and SA Rugby CEO Rian Oberholzer says that it promised to once again deliver the elements that had made the tournament one of the best sporting events in Mzansi. In football, Maritzburg United have changed their name to Durban City after relocating the club to Durban. The move comes after a long-running problem that saw them lose their home ground to Royal AM after being relegated. Now, despite the new name and logo, the colors of the club will remain the same, and according to Chairman Farouk Kododia, he says that he wants to represent Durban through their kit. Elsewhere, Manchester City midfielder Calvin Phillips is set to join newly promoted Ipswich Town on loan for the season. Phillips had failed to break into the City starting lineup since his £45 million, which is around 1 billion rand, move from Leeds 2 years ago. He joined West Ham on loan for the second half of the last season in an effort to secure an England spot for the Euros, but a combination of poor form and injury wrecked his chances of making Gareth Southgate's squad. In the meantime, Brighton have activated the £40 million release clause for Leeds United forward Jorginho Rata. The Seagulls have had a number of previous bids turned down, but they've triggered the clause, and the decision is now in the 22-year-old's hands. Leeds are basically just trying to persuade Rata to stay, having already sold Archie Gray to Tottenham. Now, in motorsport, the owners of the World Rally Championship commercial arm, they're exploring options, including a possible sale of the business, looking to bring in cash at a time of high valuation for sports and media rights. The owners are working with bankers at JP Morgan to prepare for a potential sale of the WRC promoter as soon as later this year. The owners are hoping that the Munich-based business can fetch a valuation of around 9.9 billion rand underpinned earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and anything else that could help with the finances at the company. Then finally, Australia's Olympic Committee is demanding the removal of a petition on breakdancer Rachel Gunn after false claims were made that she manipulated her way to a spot at the Paris Olympics. Now, Gunn, who is known as a B-Girl Reagan, has been subject to social media storms since her performance at Paris last week, and the petition is basically calling for the 36-year-old to apologize. That petition has over 50,000 signatures, and they're saying she needs to say sorry for attempting to gaslight the public and undermining the efforts of genuine athletes, because according to them, she did not perform to the level of proper athletes at the Olympics. But Australia's Olympic chief Anna Meyers blames sexism for the breakdancers' criticism.
And say is that I love Rachel, and I think that what has occurred on social media with trolls and keyboard warriors and taking those comments and giving them airtime has been really disappointing. If you don't know Rachel's story, in 2008 she was locked in a room crying, being involved in a male-dominated sport as the only woman, and it took great courage for her to continue on and fight for her opportunity to participate in a sport that she loved, and that got her to winning the Olympic qualifying event to be here in Paris. She is the best breakdancer female that we have for Australia.
So, listen, I don't know the rules, most of the rules around breakdancing. However, when I see someone breakdancing, I know that looks like breakdancing.
So
I'm going to ask our listeners. I don't know. I'm going to ask our listeners to actually go on X and search for Rachel Gunn, and you'll see her performance at the Olympics, and she only got 1 point.
But can you tweet out the picture? I mean, you got the video.
I've got the video.
So tweet out the video. Let them
I'll tweet
check
out the video.
Yeah.
It does not look like someone who does breakdance.
I don't know much. It probably just looks like a breakdown dance. I can call it something along that line. Listen, before I let you go, I mean, so that's the one thing they must tell you. This Durban City Maritzburg United story. What's your take on what actually has happened here?
It's just politics of football, I guess. So when Maritzburg United got relegated, their stadium, basically their sponsorship from the municipality of Maritzburg, was taken away and given to Royal AM. So Royal AM now got that sponsorship, and they used the stadium.
Harry Gwala Stadium.
Yes, yeah. And at one stage, Royal AM was saying that they don't want their ground to be ruined, so they don't want to allow any other team to play their home games there. However, I think at one stage there was a team that was allowed to play, also in the Municipal Championship, and Maritzburg was saying, how come they're allowed, but when it comes to us, we're not allowed to play at the stadium, and you're telling us that it's going to be ruined, or the ground is going to be ruined. But from what I understand, the problem between Maritzburg United and Royal AM spans from way back.
But I mean, here's the thing. In a country where resources are not that great and you have to share, I mean, Pirates and Chiefs have shared Orlando Stadium and FNB whenever they've had to do all their lives. Here's a club that's been around for like 2 decades in the Premier League, and you're prepared to just lose the entire club?
They literally lost it.
They're gone out of Maritzburg. I mean, like, how can they not, if they don't want to share, they must have their own stadium.
I mean, they even reached out to the municipality, and the municipality was saying that they're going to revamp one of the stadiums there, and that it will help them to still stay there. However, to their unfortunate side.
So now we got this name called Durban City, which some may remember would be the name of the white Durban City club, I think with blue and white stripes, if I'm not mistaken, in the old National Football League, NFL. Are they allowed to do that, by the way? And what sort of nostalgia did that sort of conjure up for you? Durban City playing now in in
Durban.
In Durban, in the PSL. Strange things happen. Okay, right. So you don't like it? You agree? In conclusion,
yeah, I think it's unfair.
Something's wrong. Something's really crazy about that. Just how do you let a team just leave your city, right? Okay, more sport in an hour.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, Noma Uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Hey Mike, congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks, Andile. Are you preparing for it?
Yes, but not just for myself.
For you and?
For me and my employees.
Oh.
You know, since we moved to Old Mutual Corporate, their retirement funds have not only been safe and secure, but gaining competitive returns through exposure to diverse investment markets.
Impressive.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, to the markets we go with Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Good chatting as always. You will talk about local and global markets in a moment, but I see Standard Bank are very busy with their interim results.
Afternoon, Ashraf, to you and to your listeners. Yes, Standard Bank Ashraf managed to navigate a difficult economic environment. Their growth was underpinned by continued franchise growth in their banking business and also earnings growth in their insurance and asset management business. Return on equity of 18.5%, very decent. Profits as headline earnings per share up a mere 4%. Interim dividends up 8%. But their JV in China saw profits from that side falling by a whopping 48%. And yes, encouraging inflation data this week has largely swept away investors' recessionary fears and led to a rebound in stocks following last week's sharp sell-off. And Japan's Q2 GDP grew more than expected on strong consumer spending, and Chinese retail sales managed to beat expectations, but the industrial production failed to meet expectations. So markets started the session waiting for U.S. retail sales. So market participants are sharing a string of encouraging economic data from the world's three largest economies, and one Fed official said he was growing more concerned about the labor market than inflation. That is following the reassuring report on price growth yesterday, and the strong U.S. retail sales helped to alleviate recession fears. Oil prices are heating up as prospect of improving demand through lower U.S. interest rates helped traders to look past the growing concern when it comes to weaker demand. We see Brent crude is up 0.8% at $80 a barrel, and hopes for interest rate cuts are keeping gold prices at elevated levels, though it is flat now at 2,446, but platinum is up 3.5% at 955, DAX up 1.6%, FTSE up 1.6%, CAC up 1.2%, the Dow is up 1% just like S&P, JSE is up 1.5%, helped mainly by our financials which are up 2.5%. The rand is 18.03 to the US dollar, 23.15 to the pound, and 19.78 to the euro.
Okay, thank you for that. We certainly follow all those stories as they develop in the course of the afternoon. Makwe, we'll chat again tomorrow, right? We'll talk in a few minutes' time around South Africa's telecommunications landscape and the challenges faced by the industry. We'll do that in a moment, but I'll take your calls next.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Okay, let's get to your thoughts. I'll get voice notes. I'll get calls. Andy in Bizana on the line. Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead. What's your point?
Oh, I thought I'm still going to hold, okay? I'm Andile. I'm calling from Bizana.
Yeah, go ahead, Andile.
Yes. My point is that I see that I want to comment on Shivambo, on what actually he
okay,
has
so
done.
just what I'm saying, just say it. What do you want to say?
Okay. Yeah, I see that there's more to what we see. The reality is that the EFF is losing influence if a deputy president, someone who holds a position like a deputy president, that he can just resign. And it says a lot to me. That to me, it confirms that the EFF, there's something like the voices in the EFF seems to be silenced.
Well, let's see how it plays out. I mean, it's certainly a major player. I got that, Andy. Andile, thank you for your call. It's a major player. You can say what you want. When a major player of a political party leaves to another party, you can't just say it's one of those things. I don't think so. KG in Pretoria, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Ashraf, you know what? My view is that the BCA, the EFF might just weather the storm. It's still my view that the MK party is going to actually implode. And I don't believe and I won't ever believe this thing of people trying to make Jay-Z as the mastermind. It's far from being a mastermind. So just weather the storm. It's going to implode. The EFF guys must just relax. Things are actually going to work out in their favor.
Okay, interesting point if it implodes. But where does the EFF then fall in now, where many may say EFF not getting above 10% is already a type of implosion anyway? If they couldn't take advantage of what's happened in the last election, when will they do so? And now they don't have Floyd Jivambu with them as well. Thanks for that call. Certainly got me thinking, and that's great. Right, let's get further voice notes on some of the big issues that you've commented on.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your team. Great show. Always, it's Uncle JJ, the truck driver in Western Cape. Ashraf, There's nothing new. When someone resigns, people they resign, even at work they resign. So it's not a new thing. Let him go. They will be under Zuma. That's the fact. Zuma is in charge. Helen Zille is in charge of DA. Malema is in charge of EFF. So there's nothing new, guys. Let him go. Malema, he'll die for EFF.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Floyd is joining the state capture party. He is tainted with the VBS money through Skameka. I don't see him going to make it or going to redeem the state capture party and to redeem himself. So in my view, for him to join state capture is just to join people who impoverish the millions of this country through state capture. Thank you, Anonymous.
Good afternoon, family. I just want to comment on this Floyd Shivambu joining the MK. You know what, my brother? I just want to say one thing to you. Respect President Jacob Zuma. Goodbye. Thank you.
Okay, respect President Jacob Zuma. Okay, got that. And as many of others said, let him resign, let him do what he wants, and I've heard that too. And then the state capture party. So strong opinions. I don't think I need to add any more than that. Strong opinions from everyone. Here's a question to you: is there anybody? Well, not is there anybody? Of course there is. Are you an EFF supporter? And what do you feel about the fact that Floyd Shivambu has now left your party? So if you heard the conversation with the spokesperson for the MK party, I likened it to like a galactic, well, in fact, he said that moving to another, in a big political transfer. So if your Galactico moves to another party, another club, how do you feel about it? Like, seriously, what is it you're feeling? And I want to know what you think.
Winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Tamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
Brilliant silver for Johan van Dijk.
The plan was to win a medal. That was the goal. So I'm just so grateful and thankful that everything went as it should. For me, it's to be an inspiration to all the younger girls in South Africa. There's so much power and passion. I think our South African women really have a lot of resilience.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So in particular, you're part of the EFF, you're a supporter of the EFF, and your main man number 2 is left. What do you feel about it? Just tell me what you think. Let's talk about telecommunications now. South Africa's telecommunications industry is at a very pivotal moment. Now, the digital economy, and we've been speaking about it a lot, right, is booming, driven by innovations in 5G, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence. In fact, by the way, last night I had a conversation at home. Guess what we spoke about? ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. Crazy. So Dr. Noxolo Qhubeka Dlamini is the Telkom's Chief Digital and Information Officer. And Dr. Qhubeka Dlamini believes that even though the country's telecommunications at this point, there remains a number of challenges. So what are those challenges? Good chatting to you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you and your listeners, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. So it's interesting. I mean, we talk about one being in a healthy state in terms of booming technology or the digital economy, but you're saying that there are challenges. What are those challenges?
Okay. So in terms of, before we even get to the challenges, one needs to first acknowledge that, as a country, we've come a long way. We've seen the investment in the infrastructure, but because of the delta and the mileage that we need to cover as a country, there's so much more to actually do. If you think about it from digital inclusion as well as sustainability, there's more that we as the telcos are supposed to do. But what is of interest now is that if you look at the digital opportunities that are provided by the digital evolution, we are now able to do so much more, extend the reach even to the underserved as well as the underprivileged. I mean, we've always known that data is important, the value of data, to everybody, and we've known that it's currency. But now we've got the tools that are enabling us through the network provisions, 5G, we've got edge computing, but we also have artificial intelligence, which allows us to do all the things that previously we couldn't do with data, but also extending the reach to those that are actually underprivileged. So the biggest challenge is the infrastructure gap that we have, is that all the telcos are committed to actually close. In particular, in fact, this is the one where I'm mostly passionate about. It's the gap and the fact that I'm working for a company, Telkom, that is fully committed, that is intentional and very deliberate about making sure that there's inclusion. It's not just for the select few, but the network and the coverage, everybody who is a South African can be connected in various ways. Thank you.
So if we've got this data gap that you refer to, then how then do you narrow this gap?
It's in the investment in the infrastructure. I mean, if you look at if you've been following the reports on the investment that Telkom has been making, I mean, we're looking to connect every South African, and we've got a history to this. If you think about it, I mean, we are one of the trusted brands, even in rural areas, where even back in the days, we were one of the people or companies that were connecting relatives to relatives, friends to friends, making sure that people stay connected. So we're taking that a step further through the investment in the infrastructure, and through the investment in the infrastructure, data becomes available and everybody is able to connect. And through that, we have an inclusive, obviously, economy. And the participation is not only selected to the ones that are living in urban areas and so forth. So for us, the infrastructure is very key in making sure that from a sustainability point of view, we invest in connecting every other South African.
So, a long time ago, I heard the phrase digital divide, right? I mean, what are the numbers in terms of, South Africans who have access to the digital economy, let's put it that way, versus South Africans who are completely cut off, even now, from the digital economy, and therefore the digital divide is perpetuated?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that it's perpetuated as such, because we're seeing a decline. Because remember, the more we invest in the infrastructure, the more we invest in the network to make sure that it facilitates the connectivity, more people are getting online, more people are using the data. And if you think about it and you look deeper and back in history to Telkom, our offerings, our services are always affordable. So, which then means even the person that's in the rural areas, a child that needs to be doing homework that requires them to have access to the internet, with as low as 5 rand for the data that they can afford at that time, everybody is now able to connect. So, yes, the numbers used to be big, but we are seeing a very huge decline, and it's sustainable, but we're not going to tire. We are committed to this when we continue to invest in the infrastructure, not just in the urban areas, but to those that are underprivileged, to those that are underserved, to make sure that everybody can have the access that those that are privileged have.
All right, and here's the last thing very quickly. So therefore, regarding all these challenges, what's the one thing you'd want to see happen now?
So for me, it's 2 things. I mean, and I'm very passionate about that. It's the digital inclusion. And Telkom has raised their hands in terms of saying we will make sure that every South African is connected, right? Every South African has access and they can participate meaningfully in the economy of this country. Every young child has access in terms of the schooling, they actually have the support, they have the advantage that the other kids that are coming from privileged families in the school, they can have that.
Okay, that's where we can leave it here.
Yeah.
All right, that's where we leave it. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Dr. Nokolo Kubeka Dlamini, Telkom's Chief Digital and Information Officer. Here's another voice note.
Ashraf, how are you? It's John here in Bloemfontein. Ashraf, me, I'm not shocked by EFF's bombshell on Floyd leaving the party and joining MK party. Let me tell you what is happening there. In the recent years, we've seen big conglomerates, big companies in the private sector merging and forming one alliance, working together, whatever. If you remember, Julius went and spoke to Zuma, had tea and whatever there. So this is a big plan. Save this voice note. Sometime next year or sometime in the near future, the EFF will merge with the MK party. They'll make it one thing, just so they can completely destroy the ANC. Mark my words. John in Bloemfontein.
And when they do that, who will lead the party? That's a big question. Who would lead a unified MK EFF party? I mean, just reflect on it. Question to you, and I put this again, I want a very personal thought about this. If you're part of the EFF, what are you feeling? What are you thinking right now? Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you and good afternoon to you, Ashraf. In this news update, court hears GNU arguments and Japan lifts earthquake warning. Good day to you. Advocate Dali Mpofu's argued that the SABC's use of the term Government of National Unity violates the rights of citizens. He's representing the MK party and its leader Jacob Zuma in the High Court in Johannesburg. They're seeking a declaratory order that the use of the term by the SABC is invalid and unconstitutional. Mpofu has submitted that the term does not fit the definitional elements of the term. The applicants reply on various definitions of GNU, including that the vast majority of elected parties representing approximately 85% to 90% of the electorate should take part, and that the country must have undergone a catastrophic event. Mpofu says DA Federal Executive Chairperson Helen Zille herself declared that the arrangement was not a GNU.
This is what Ms. Helen Zille, Federal Chair of the DA, says. President Cyril Ramaphosa came up with this notion of a government of national unity, which he thought would be a better way of selling the concept of a coalition to his own party. And she says, now this is of course not a government of national unity, because a government of national unity brings all the parties together, which would have to include the EFF and MK party, which it did not. But it still gave the president the fig leaf he needed to bring in all sorts of smaller parties to say, I'm not in a coalition with the DA.
The Bloemfontein Magistrates Court in the Free State has granted Mwari Chalotta bail of 2,500 rand after a 3-day bail application. The presiding magistrate told the court that she didn't think Chalotta was a flight risk, as the NPA had argued. Chalotta is the former personal assistant of the then Free State Premier Ace Magashule. She's been charged with fraud, corruption and money laundering, along with 16 other accused, including Magashule, in a 255 million rand asbestos removal project case. Floyd Shivambu's yet to tender his resignation with Parliament as an EFF MP. He's one of 2 EFF members who resigned from the party to join the MK party. MPs who resign from their party also have to resign from their position in Parliament. Parliament spokesperson Moloto Motapo says they only received the resignation of 1 EFF MP this week.
We can confirm that there is no resignation received from Mr. Floyd Shivambu, but indeed we can confirm that on Monday we received a resignation of Mr. Mzwane Lamanyi of the EFF.
2 children have been severely burnt in a fire at an apartment in Kempton Park, east of Johannesburg. It's alleged that the children's parents had left the premises to buy food, and when they returned, they found the apartment engulfed in flames. A witness who's a tenant at the apartment building says they took the children to hospital.
Now we had to rush the kids to RV for emergency care because we were called the ambulance, we called the firefighters, but they took time, so we didn't have any choice because we see that the kids are suffering. So we had to take the kids in their state. We just put them on top of the jackets, cover them, and then we took them to RV hospital. Indeed, when we get there, we got an emergency help. I won't lie, everyone was like helping us. Everybody was hands on, yes, when we get to RV. And then when we get there, the other one, which is the first one, who's turning 4 years, was later transported to Tembisa Hospital.
Japan's lifted a week-long warning that urged people to prepare for a potentially major earthquake along the country's Pacific coast. The BBC's Shane Khalil has more.
The Japan Meteorological Agency said it had not detected any concerning changes in the seismic activity along the Nankai Trough area. The first megaquake advisory to be issued by the authorities was triggered by a magnitude 7.1 quake in southwestern Japan last week. While the damage was limited, the tremor hit the western edge of the seismically active area of the Nankai Trough, which stretches across the densely populated Pacific coast from central to southwestern Japan. The advisory prompted panic buying among some in local communities. It also negatively impacted some tourism businesses during the summer holiday season.
Top story, advocate Dalian Porfus argued that the SABC's use of the term government of national unity violates the rights of citizens. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In your sports this hour, Proteas win the toss, elect to bat first, and Damino says that he's fit to play in the US Open. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Bears Nordia Drive in Cresta has a crash reported near Judges Avenue. The N3 northbound in Edenville has a stationary vehicle before Modderfontein Road. The N1 southbound in Roodepoort has a crash near Gordon Road, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a crash at the R21 highway. In KZN, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Ashburton, the M4 southbound queuing towards the N2 highway exit, the N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, Moss Kolnick Drive is slow moving near Galleria Mall, and Umgeni Road eastbound has a crash reported at Electron Road. In Cape Town, the N2 inbound has a crash at the R300 highway, the M5 southbound has a crash near Milner Road, the N1 outbound is queuing towards Kuburg Interchange, and the N7 checks Havel Drive southbound slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior. This Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Every day I go on the show and I ask you this question: what for you moves the national pulse? And sometimes the answer you may give us, or you just think to yourself, could be like three different things. Today, there's just one thing that moves the national pulse, and that's got to be the issue of Floyd Shivambu literally moving from the EFF to the MK party, and potentially, as you now know, other members following suit. That could be pretty shortly. I've asked you to comment, and I've certainly asked people to say, particularly if you're an EFF supporter, what do you make? How do you feel? What do you make? How do you feel emotionally? The fact that Floyd Shivambu is not with you guys any longer. And here's one saying, "Oh, Ashraf, I'm so disappointed, but I hope Malema has learned his lesson and he'll stop being arrogant and listen more than talking." And here's another that says, "I'm part of the Progressive Caucus. I'm happy to see progressive politicians coming together to crush the fake GNU." You see, in those two comments alone, the diversity of the comments reflects how we see the country and what may be seen as this political gambit by Floyd Shivambu playing out. And I wonder whether you agree with that or not. Well, of course, we're going to take the story a step further. We now chat to Kanita Hunter, who's an author and award-winning political journalist. Kanita, appreciate your time. You're live with the National Pulse.
Thank you very much for having me, Ashraf.
It is the type of day, just by the way, as a journalist, and it sounds crazy saying, it's the type of day you dream about, isn't it, where it completely dominates the headlines?
Yeah, it's definitely a tectonic shift in South African political landscape, and the reverberations of this move will be felt for a long time. It's a big deal. It's not by any means just one particular politician deciding, on his personal future, but it definitely has an implication on the EFF and on opposition politics.
So we're going to talk about just that, this tectonic shift, this big deal, these implications in just a moment. Earlier on, I chatted to Mzanele Manyi, who's now also, once of the ANC, as you know, then of the EFF, and now very much in the camp of the MK party, and glowing in his support of former President Jacob Zuma in my conversation with him earlier. In fact, you can listen to the full podcast because it's up. Go to safm.coza. We'll also tweet it out, so check it out on the X platform. Anyway, having spoken to him, Kanita, he said a few things. One, he spoke about, interesting one, the MK party being his natural home.
No, I think there's a lot of overlap between the EFF and the MK party. But I think, for me personally, I think the MK party is my natural home. Most of the comrades that are there in the MK party are comrades I was with in 2017 when we pushed for the radical economic transformation, which the current ANC has made sure that it undermines all those resolutions. So indeed, the 2017 resolutions of the ANC are the resolutions that form almost the basis for the MK party. So we'll continue from where we left off, and we combine that with the role of our traditional leaders, which had been juniorized.
He also made the point about the appeal of professionals to join the new party, in this case, the MK party.
A lot of the ANC comrades will see a lot of themselves in the MK. It's a natural transition. I did a bit of survey before on Twitter just to understand why people go this way or the other way, and I took a lot of that into account, what people were saying to me on Twitter. And also, I also noticed that when it comes to professionals, it was like it's a similar thing for professionals to go into the MK. People I know, they would say to me, "Look, we'll support you with whatever we have in the EFF and what have you, but in the MK, here is a man that started Black Industrialist program, and we are where we are today because of the program that they started." And others would say, I'm running a construction company, and that company was initiated in the Zuma era. So there are a lot of, black professionals in particular, that have got a lot of livelihood that they got in that era, and today they are struggling.
Right, then, of course, one thing is about the MK party's gain, but how destructive is this to the EFF?
only time will tell. Let's not preempt. Let's not be the prophets of doom. There's space for the EFF in the country. Let the EFF thrive. There's space for the MK in the party. Let the party thrive. And the reason we have a caucus is because the two parties and others, we are not threats to each other. We know that for this journey to be travelled, it's better to be travelled together. So indeed, as the MK party will continue to with the EFF. We don't see them as an enemy. We see them as partners in reclaiming South Africa.
And then I spoke to Ndlamulo Ndlela, who's the MK party spokesperson. I suggested to him that this effectively is, to borrow a football analogy, this is the political transfer of the season. And this is a massive coup, like buying a top-notch player. I think he used the word Galactico.
All I can say is that what we both know is that, yes, he is senior, and his contributions are definitely going to be extremely valuable, not just to MK, I think for the caucus overall, and including what we're trying to achieve here. And in order for his inputs to have an impact, naturally he'd have to come in at a role that allows him to do so.
Right, so that gives you a good overview of the many conversations we've had. You can listen to all those up there, up as podcasts, so do catch them anyway. Let's get back then to Kanita Hunter. So Kanita, your thoughts about this being a big deal. Tell me more. Why is it such a big deal?
It's a big deal, particularly because the moment for the EFF. Let's start. The EFF is going to a elective conference in December, and there has been a relationship between Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu. There have been two peas in a pod. They fought together in the youth league. They got kicked out of the ANC together. They formed the EFF. It's on his of betrayal, if you like.
All right, I'll tell you what, we're just losing your line. Let's just take a quick break, Kanita. We'll get you reconnected in a moment.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Expresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For superfast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Expresso and TV licenses and paying yours.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, let's reconnect with Kanita Hunter, who's an author and award-winning political journalist. Kanita, you were talking about the two of them, Julius Malema and of course now the man that has now moved on now, right, to the MK party. I think you suggested, and I'm using my own words here, that effectively they've been like political Siamese twins, like together all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, 16 years, two peas in a pod. They have been at each other's side, in every political fight from back in the days when Floyd Shivambu was the spokesperson of the ANC Youth League and Julius Malema was its president, to the expulsion from the ANC and then to the formation of the EFF. Now, the EFF is in a very, very difficult spot. It declined in the last election. It's facing redundancy because it's not part of any, political center and does not have the power of being the official opposition, even because that had something that it had to relegate to the MK party. And then at the same time, there's growing dissatisfaction within its ranks in the run-up to an elective conference later this year. And so there have been murmurings about this fallout or possible tension between Malema and Shivambu, maybe not even at a personal level, but definitely at an internal party level. And so that is the ambit in which this decision and this political moment.
Well, I mean, that's the
again
point.
Also...
Yeah.
The MK party and the fact that its leadership structure has been a revolving door and they have been unable post-elections and even before elections, they've just been sort of churning out leaders and not been have anyone to actually run the show, despite its election, and so it needed some formidable party leaders to run it, and I think that's what characterizes this moment.
Now, so do you see this then? So, how much of this move is Malema and Shivambu, not getting on now because major policy or strategic differences, or is the carrot of the MK party bigger for Shivambu than the EFF can ever promise him?
I think that it is a because the elective conference of the EFF looms large, and there is growing antagonism. There was growing antagonism in the EFF, and a push to have Shivambu contest Malema for the leadership position of the EFF, and one would say that given the decline of the EFF, this would have been his last shot. So an effort to maybe step out of the shadow of Julius Malema politically, at least. I think if one has to ask what would be the carrot the MK would be dangling, it's difficult to say. Floyd Shivambu has had a historic terrible relationship with Jacob Zuma, even worse than Julius. And there's a famous moment at the elective conference of the ANC Youth League back in the days. Zuma was at the height of his power, was saying Utinu Baba Kulamanam when Floyd was manifestly disrespectful to Zuma. At some point, Floyd Shivambu called Zuma a killer in Parliament. That was not very long ago. And yes, we are used to political flip-flopping, but I do think that what this move by Floyd Shivambu can signal is, one, jump before you're pushed, and two, an effort to reinvent yourself outside of the shadow of Julius Malema.
All right. Now, in my conversation with the MK party spokesperson, I did make the point that since he's already the deputy president of the EFF, there's no way that Floyd Shivambu will cross over and then become a political backbencher. Something significant has got to be offered to him, right? What do you think?
Absolutely. And given the fact that there is a leadership vacuum in the MK party, and the fact that the system of running things with Zuma and Kandla trying to direct things is not working for the party. There's been massive upheaval. Arthur Zwane, the Secretary General or former Secretary General, was in and out and in again. The party led in was never served in Parliament, despite his judicial. John Klope is not a politician, and so there's been purging of members non-stop within the MK party. So really, a chaotic environment, and maybe an opportunity. Maybe Floyd Shivambu sees that as an opportunity himself to create structure in the organization. I think that it would be downplayed as less of a betrayal because there's this conversation about the coming together of progressive forces, and there'll be a lot of aligning between the MK party and the EFF anyways in Parliament, and maybe in the run-up to the 2029 election. But so far, the MK party is despite its electoral gains, does not have the level of stability the EFF had at its genesis. It is proven to be absolutely shambolic, and I suppose that would be the challenge of someone like Floyd Shivambu. How do you assert yourself in that type of environment, and how do you, and what role do you play then in the growth of that party, and do you do it at the expense of the demise of the EFF?
So, can one talk about him as a president of the MK, like within a short period of time?
hard to tell. MK Party is and will always be Jacob Zuma's political outfit, and I think anyone who tried to characterize the party or themselves as a leader of the party was severely punished. Everyone that was part of the leadership core, remember, Jacob Zuma was not regarded as a leader. He came in, he said he's endorsing this party in December. But all of those people who actually formed the party, Jabulani Kumalo and others, there was a Secretary General from Johannesburg, they all were relegated to oblivion. There was a new round of leaders that, in the fight for leadership positions in the MK party has already been vicious. Zuma has on numerous occasions, kind of said, hey, let's not focus on that. Which is what the objective was in the election, but I do think that he would not settle. My concern, or what I would be looking at keenly, is how much of sort of Jacob Zuma's is extended. Does he become the voice of authority by virtue of being Zuma's proxy as the de facto leader, or does he just sort of become one of many, the likes of Jimmy Mani, Mzwanele Mani rather, and Duduzile Zuma, etc.
Well, it's interesting. I can't see him being one of many. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense in general. But talking about Mzwanele Mani, I see Jacob, rather Julius Malema, called him by the name he called himself before, Jimmy Mani, which he hasn't called himself for a long, long time, referred to him and then suggesting others may also leave the EFF. And this is what Malema said.
Jimmy Mani has also resigned to go and join MK, and there will be many others who are going to leave the EFF because they've got their loyalty and support to the deputy president. So fighters on the ground should be prepared for more people to follow, and this should not serve as a point of collapse for the EFF. This is a testing moment. The organization that has lived beyond 10 years has never been through this testing moment. The EFF will have to pass this test or it will have to die. And we, as members and leaders of the EFF, will defend its life, will make sure it lives forever for generations to come.
All right, back to Kanita Hunter. So Kanita, on the one level, Julius Malema was incredibly open and honest to the way that you hardly see any other political party being as open as that. On the other, he's actually saying that others will follow, and specifically they will follow the deputy president. What do you make of that?
I find it very interesting, the humility in which he took this. Julius Malema is usually known for his sort of fighting spirit and his sort of burn the house down instincts. But this time around, he kind of he understands the political moment, understands the test that it brings for him and his party, and more importantly, I think understands that the EFF is at a major crossroads. When you have this level of, political defection, if you like, it will come with some consequences, and the incentive for EFF supporters to swap over to the MK party ranks is large. MK party is the official opposition. It's relevant in KwaZulu-Natal, and there could be some growing support in another local government election, and so there would be some sort of defection, if you like, and he is very much alive to the reality that if the party doesn't deal with this moment very well, it would be the beginning of the end.
Well, the leader of the fighters is nothing but a fighter, so how does he then fight back? We may have lost Kanita Hunter as I asked that. No, we got okay. Kanita, just repeat if you haven't said it. I asked, how does the fighter fight back?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is securing the base of the EFF, ensuring that an elective process is not destructive on the party, and then reigniting the ranks of the EFF in councils and legislatures, and setting it apart and creating a separate identity to the MK party. It's a difficult moment. You were the noise makers in the different legislatures and in the National Assembly. Now you have this MK party that has come in, and so and to some degree there has been an admittance from Julius Malema that the EFF got lazy in the last 5 years, and so I think there's going to have to be this effort to rebuild ground up, and more importantly, put their best foot forward in the next 2 years when the country votes in the municipal elections.
Can Julius Malema himself survive this?
I think that the question of can there be an EFF without Julius Malema, I think that's an important one. I think that they can't. And that would just be the beginning of the unraveling of the EFF. For me, it will be interesting to see who sort of becomes Julius Malema's pointsman, his kind of duo. Is it Marshall Dlamini? Is it Mbuyiseni Ndlozi? Kind of who is the leadership collective that sort of tries to stamp the control over the party. I don't think Julius Malema is ready to leave the party. He's on record saying that Floyd must not plot to oust him. If Floyd wants him out, he'll gladly leave. But I do think that it's a little bit premature. I don't know if they have been murmurs since last year that Floyd Shivambu had been, sort of undermining the leadership of Julius Malema, and that created tension between the pair. And so this development is a confirmation of that, and a realization that either way it was going to either have to be Julius or Floyd come December. And I think Floyd Shivambu did the maths and said, okay, let me go before I'm pushed.
Okay, we're on to news time, so just the last one very quickly. The local election comes up soon, right? Very soon. What's your quick percentage window then for the MK party as well as the EFF? And I know you're guessing, but what do you think is going to happen?
I mean, I can't put a percentage. We haven't, it's difficult to make that calculation because the MK party hasn't contested local government before. But I do think that parties that sit at this point find it very difficult to regain support. Other political examples are that once the electoral decline sets in, it's very difficult to capture the imagination of South Africans.
Okay, that's where we can leave it, Kanita Hunter. Some may say the same thing for the ANC. Once you get below 50 to 40%, how then do you regain the trust of the voting, of the electorate as well? So these are challenging times indeed. Fascinating conversation with Kanita Hunter. We'll have it up as a podcast as well. You can catch it immediately. Apologies for the bad connection, but we stayed with the issue because I think the points Kanita has raised are just so important. I hope you picked out what you could coming out of that conversation. Let's get the news headlines now. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The Parole Review Board has decided to overturn the decision to grant parole for a child murderer and former Cape Town policeman. Action SA's petitioned the Department of Basic Education and the Police Service to allocate additional resources to ensure learner safety in Eldorado Park School south of Johannesburg. And authorities in Kenya have removed the statues of 3 athletes who they describe as embarrassing and a joke. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Four Ways has a crash before Winnie Mandela Drive exit. The N1 southbound in Roodepoort has a crash near Gordon Road. Clockhope Road eastbound has delays towards Seedfontein Avenue. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road, and Bearsnodere Drive in Crest has a crash near Judges Avenue. In KZN, the N3 westbound, a truck crash reported just before Hammersdale exit has very heavy delays, so you're asked to consider using alternative routes. The M30 M13 westbound in Hillcrest is closed between Kasir Road and Key Ridge. That's due to a crash on the N3 West, so expect delays and diversions. Chris Hani Road is queuing at the N2 highway and the R102 southbound slow moving near Old North Coast Road. In Cape Town, the N2 inbound has a stationary bus on the ramp to the R300 northbound. The N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. The R300 westbound is queuing towards the M7 Jakes Havel Drive junction, and Saxtown Road northbound in Brackenfell is queuing towards Portlaray Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Tommy, let's talk sport. I know we're going to talk about the 96 Olympic team. Where are they now? The gold medalists or the medalists, but let's talk cricket first.
Yeah. We start off with cricket this hour. The Proteas won the toss and they elected to bat first in the second test against the West Indies. In terms of the score right now, South Africa is sitting on 46 for 3 in 18 overs, and obviously the Proteas are looking to win this one because they're sitting 7th in the World Test Championship, and they're hoping to at least keep their hopes of making the final to stay alive. Then in football, Mamelodi Sundowns ladies midfielder Kolosa Biana believes that the Women's Cup is a great test for the players to gauge where they are on international level. The Brazilians were defeated 3-0 by Kansas City Current in the opening match of the 4-team tournament played at in the USA, and speaking to the media after the match, Biana says matches like these will help them improve on all levels.
I think it's great for women's football, especially for us. We need to test ourselves and see where we are at, especially us from South Africa, just to see where we are at and also help us improve, to work a lot of things. I think the exposure for us is great, and there's an opportunity for all players to raise up their hands and see if they are where they are compared to the world best. But I think it was a great game.
Well, it's almost time for kick-off for the Premier League. Manchester United kicking off their 2024-25 Premier League season at home to Fulham tomorrow before Manchester City begin the defence of their title at free-spending Chelsea on Sunday. And new Liverpool manager Arne Slot will be under the spotlight on Saturday with a trip to newly promoted Ipswich for his first competitive game since succeeding Jurgen Klopp. In tennis, Alex de Minaur says that he will play in this month's US Open weeks after withdrawing from the Paris Olympics due to a hip injury. De Minaur pulled out of his Wimbledon quarterfinal against Novak Djokovic last month after sustaining a cartilage tear in his hip in the fourth round. The US Open is set to kick off its 144th edition in New York on the 26th of August. Then in rugby, Olympic bronze medalists, the Blitzboks will be back in action on home soil during the popular Cape Town leg of the World 7 Series on the 7th and the 8th of December. World Rugby announced today that the 2025 7th season will again start with a traditional opening double round of Dubai and Cape Town, set to kick on from a sellout event at the Olympic Games in Paris last month, where both the men and women's events at Stade de France delivered record attendances. Now the event has returned to its former format of 2 action-packed days on one field. SA Rugby CEO Rian Obarosa says that it promises to once again deliver the elements that have made the tournament one of the best sporting events in South Africa. On that note, it is a wrap from my side.
Well, not quite. I mean, so I asked you yesterday, I said, where are the 1992, in fact, where are South Africa's Olympian medal winners over the years? And yesterday we spoke about 92. So just very quickly, 96, who were the medal winners? Where are they now?
Well, in 1996, one that got gold, the first black athlete to earn a gold medal, Josiah Tugwane.
In the marathon, yes.
In the marathon, yes. Do you remember him? And in terms of him, there's no clear picture on what he's currently doing right now. However, it just says, in terms of the research I've done, is that he's just trying to offer advice to whoever comes to him and wants advice with regards to him.
Where is Josiah Togwani.
And then obviously Penny Hines getting 2 gold medals in 1996, and we've seen her really being a mentor to the young athletes out there. I know she goes out to speak a lot at a lot of events, but she also has her door open to anyone that needs help in terms of her.
And she provided some very good analysis during the Olympic Games.
Also, she's an analyst, yes. Right. And then there's Ezekiel Sebeng, who got silver, and he started an interesting initiative called Street Athletics SA, and basically he's given his time to trying to unearth young athletes, and he's been coaching youngsters. He actually has coached Prudence Khodiso, the one that was running in the 800 meter in the Olympics. Also Tsepo Chite, who went to the Olympics. He didn't win a medal. However, he's basically focused on trying to get young athletes to get into the sport. He also has a foundation, and that's what he's doing. Then Marianne Griel, who got bronze, she got it in swimming. Yes. She went to work in the USA, and she's back, and she's a swimming coach in high schools.
Okay, now so also providing analysis during the Olympic Games. So
also,
absolutely. Just a quick one on this one. Yes, the Ezekiel Sebeng one, and people may just jog my memory. I think that was a very close race. If I was a lighty man, but I think it was a very, very close race. Please help me with this. But here's the question that we must think about. None of them are involved in administration of sport, like SASCOC. Don't answer why. I don't know. That's it.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, as always, Jimmy Moya hosts the show. It comes up, in fact, we got the big show coming up from 6 o'clock, but of course in the market update right away. Jimmy, let's start firstly about an interesting one. Well, a 300 million rand land deal. Tell me about that.
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to the listeners. There is a pension fund administrator who was in charge of a 26 billion rand pension, and part of that involved purchasing a piece of land and selling it back to said pension fund at an exorbitant rate, so purchasing it at around 1.1 million, selling it back to the pension fund at 300 million. As a result of that and many other concerns, the pension fund members themselves have asked that the entire pension fund be placed under curatorship by the FSCA and be taken away from this pension fund administrator. We're going to be looking at that conversation, and we're going to be speaking to the lawyer representing that pension fund to understand what's happening there and try and get all the details out of that. Then we've also got a conversation with Standard Bank about their half-year results. I've got a conversation with the group CEO, Sim Shabalala, about the performance of the business and what they're looking forward to in the second half of the year. And we've got a similar conversation with the Chief Financial Officer of Exaro, because they also gave us their interim results. It's a different conversation from a mining perspective. We know the miners have been under quite a bit of pressure, especially on the coal side. So we're going to get a sense of how Exaro has been faring as well as part of our conversations. And then because it's Thursday, we've got our SME of the week. And this week I'm joined in studio by the co-founder of a business called Sari for Change. A very interesting business that deals in more than just clothing and textiles, but also in employment, empowerment, and uplifting communities in South Africa. So definitely a conversation to look forward to there. If we have a quick look at how the markets have been moving throughout the day before that, we'll start with Asian markets as we always do. It's been a bit of a mixed bag again. Hong Kong being the only one in the red, actually, with Sydney up kind of flat, 0.05% in the green. Hong Kong down 0.15%. Shanghai up 2/3%, while the Nikkei in Tokyo was up 0.5%. European markets CAC 40 in France was up 1.2%. The DAX in Germany 1.6% in the green, and the FTSE in London 0.8% in the green. US markets are in the green, and strongly so, with Nasdaq up 2%, with the S&P up 1.3%, and the Dow up 1.1% at this stage. South African markets had an equally good day. We are very happy with the performance of our local equities today. We start with industrials, actually. The industrials 25 sector, that was up 0.7%, and that was the underperformer of the day. Resources up 1% and financials up 1.5%. As a result, the all share up a full percent and the top 40 up a full percent. We're going to be looking at that and seeing some of those stocks a little later on. If we look at the currencies quickly, the rand giving back some ground, actually gaining some ground back at 18 Rand. It briefly was below 18 Rand at 17.98 or so throughout the day, but holding steady at 18 Rand at the moment against the US dollar. 1 British pound will cost you 23 Rand and 16 cents. 1 euro will cost you 19 Rand 78 cents. It's getting stronger there. 1 Australian dollar will be 11 Rand and 93 cents. And if we look at some of the commodities movements, the exact opposite of what we saw yesterday. Commodities were in the red yesterday. Today they're all in the green. Gold price $2,455 an ounce. Brent crude $80.61 a barrel. Silver price $28.40 a barrel. Platinum and palladium both still below $1,000, but platinum $967 and palladium $937 an ounce there. So we're going to look into these and other market movements when we come back a little later on.
That right. Before I let you go, so I often hear about this one, like, what's a rights issue?
Think back to the Pick and Pay one. That's the most recent example I can think of. So effectively, it is a company issuing some shares or allowing existing shareholders to take up a new allocation of shares. And the net effect that has on the company is that you now have more shares in issue, which means the value of the existing shares are going to be diluted down. So instead of, if you previously had 100 shares at 1 Rand a share, you now have 150 shares, and so therefore the individual share price of each share will be reduced slightly by that liquidation or that dilution process, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the company's valuation will come down. It just means that the company, one, might have more money to deploy into things and might have more money to improve performance, which could help recover the share price. But effectively, a rights issue is new shares coming into the market for existing shareholders. Okay, and maybe the longer conversation is what happens next. But don't answer me now. That's it. Thanks for that. Enjoy your show coming up at 6 o'clock. We'll take calls after this.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Right, so let's get we probably could have played calls for 5 hours today. There's been so many people wanting to comment on the issue of the EFF, and specifically my point, like, if you're an EFF supporter, what do you feel about your man leaving the EFF? Well, Matito in Rustenburg, hi.
Yes, Ashraf. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ashraf.
It's good talking to you, man.
I heard about this breaking news about our brother EFF Shivambu.
Yeah.
For me, I think, Ashraf, it's a strategic move, really. I can't really say I know him, but for me, EFF and MK, they are brothers, and let's. I think there is a bigger picture. Something bigger will unfold in the future.
But when you say strategic move, are you saying are you saying the EFF is allowing it? I don't know. It could be a strategic move.
Deployment. For me, I see it as a deployment. I mean, he was given the platform to talk to the EFF members to say, guys, don't worry, and all the stuff. So for me, I think it's a deployment.
All right, let's see if that is true or not. Thanks for that, Matito. A deployment. The deployed Floyd Shivambu, redeployed one, right? Marlon in the Eastern Cape, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, Marlon, good talking to you. Go ahead.
You see, the thing is, man, maybe Floyd realized that MK is like, okay, EFF is a progressive party, but maybe he realized that MK is just a more progressive party, and stance towards progressiveness is more than EFF, you understand?
Yeah, I hear you.
From my side, I wish him all of the best, and I hope that the whole EFF join MK is going to be the best for South Africa. I'm not going to talk about corruption, That is media's job. You understand?
All right,
That is
got
media's
that.
job.
Media must stop corruption. All right. And when we do, people complain as well. But I hear that. Thanks for that, Marlon, in the Eastern Cape. Again, I like the diversity of calls from around the country. Male, female, young, old, but certainly everywhere. But somebody from around the world, wherever you are. Are you from Russia? You can call in too. You know that. Biza in Witbank. Hi.
No, hi, Ashraf. No, I want to talk about the resignation of Floyd. I think it's a blow to the EFF, but equally wasted his time. I know eventually he'll come back to the ANC. He should have came direct the ANC as opposed to going to this hazard shop called Mkondo Season. Nonetheless, we were of the view that EFF has lost a cadre, but eventually we want him to come back to the ANC, and we know that he'll come back to the ANC.
Well, Julius left the door open, but would you call the MK party a spaza shop? They've done so well in their very first election, like unprecedented, really speaking. Think about it. Okay, got that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, point made. Let's see if we can get further calls on some of the issues that we've got. By the way, I've put out a vote line on my X or Twitter feed, and we'll get SFM Radio to share it as well. And here's the one. So Floyd Shivambu's now moved on to the MK party. Do you see that as a career enhancement, or do you see it as a bad move? And I'm talking about him specifically. Is it a good move for him or a bad move for him? Whichever one. Let's get to Gift in Joburg. Go ahead, Gift. What's your point?
Hi, hello. How are you?
Gift. I'm good indeed, Gift. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm great, man. I'm a bit shocked about the departure of Floyd Shivambu from the EFF. As a person that was engaged in those politics of students and all of that, I think we're all inspired by Floyd, especially in the EFF Students Command. So other than the EFF structure, the regional leadership itself, also the Student Command will also feel his absence. So this is the moment that the EFF should reflect, and going to the conference, I believe that a leader of the caliber of Floyd should be a name should come up from the ground and say who is going to replace Floyd. They should not look at the popularity, but they should look at the abilities and the attributes of Floyd, and as someone that will complement CIC. So for me, it's a bit of a shock. Yeah, it really took a knock at the EFF, but I'm also thinking about those young activists that look up to Floyd, because a lot of them look up to Floyd
and
to his academic accomplishments and other things.
Well, I think you're right, and as Malema said, some people may follow him because they support him, so we'll see what happens next on that one. Thanks for that call, Gift. Another thought, and really there's just no other conversation at the moment besides the EFF, Floyd Shivambu, MK party, but central is Floyd Shivambu. In Glovo, let's get your thoughts from Nelspruit. Hello.
Yes, hello. How are you?
I'm good indeed. Right, go ahead.
Yes, the move from Floyd Shivambu to MK party is a move of those people who are on the wrong side of the law. So definitely they want to queue to their number one person who is against the Constitution of South Africa, which is the former President Jacob Zuma. Therefore, it's not amazing that all those people who will be on the wrong side of the law, definitely all of them, they will end up in the MK because they want to build themselves so that they can be able to fight against those who want to put them in jail.
Okay, God, I wonder, well, why would he not just stay in the EFF? And what about then? What does this do for the EFF? And Global, thanks for that comment, right? By the way, have you been seeing Walaza? We spoke to him yesterday, was it 2 days ago, right? That South African silver medalist, this youngster, 18-year-old schoolboy, winning the silver medal in the relay. Now, he's finally got back to his school, the Kuro school. And remember when he won the silver, he said, and I go back home, I'm sure the guys in my school will just say, well, I'll tell you what, huge crowd. Check out the visuals. I'm gonna share them as well later on. Check out the visuals. They are so inspiring. This 18-year-old going back home, come to his school, and they just love him like he's a champion. Not like he's a champion. He is a champion. It's something quite remarkable. Well, here's a different sort of champion coming up next.
Feel Good Fridays just got even better with a brand new Espresso newsletter, the Feel Good Fix. Delivered to your inbox every Friday, it is your weekly dose of joy, entertainment, and local flair. Subscribe now at expressoshow.com and never miss a moment.
From heartwarming stories to tasty recipes, it's all there waiting for you. And remember to tune in to the Espresso Morning Show weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on S3, and let's start your day right and channel your inner feel good.
Catch me, Bonang Mateba, on a fresh reality series that showcases the business behind being a business. Get to experience an intimate look at my life with family, personal growth, and my mission to uplift young women. Jet with me as we prepare to crown a lucky chaser. Be grounded, be entertained, and be dazzled. Monday, 6 p.m. on S3, it's a date with you and B. Catch Bedazzled by Bonang on S3 every Monday at 6 p.m.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
We're going to wrap up the show by looking at, well, people who are winning at what they do. And in this case here, Basitsana Moketsi is doing just that. Social media influencer, author, that's the title, but that's half the story, because what I understand is a good example of a person who's been using social media and then understand how that social media usage and impact can turn into a book, because Basitsana has done just that. So good chatting to you and welcome to the National Pulse.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So give me, you've put out a book now, and the book is called?
And When You Pray Tonight.
And When You Pray Tonight. Now, let's get the story. How did you get to putting out the book? Because there's a fascinating story that happened before that. Tell me about it.
Well, I was going through a very tough time on a specific year, and I decided to write something that I was going through, but then I realized that I didn't want to make it personal, because, you know, social media is a very, sometimes you just need to be mindful of what you post. So I decided to write what I was going through, but I didn't want to make it personal. And in the end, I said, and when I pray tonight, I will pray for, etc. And then along the way, I said, okay, because I'm not making it about me, let it say, and when you pray tonight. So I started just posting those every night, because I was going through a series of, you know, a very tough time. It was a very tough phase for me. So I kept on posting, and I realized that I had so much engagement, and, you know, there were people who were communicating and commenting on the posts themselves. And that's when I realized that, oh, you know what, we all go through the same thing, and I'm not the only one. So that's just how it came about. And I would see how people would post my prayers, and they wouldn't even credit me on some instances. And that's when I realized that, you know what, let me just own it and put it in a book, because I've been doing that for the past 2 years every night.
Okay, so you've answered the one question. It's 2 years now. Give me an example of the type of prayer you were posting or tweeting out every night.
For example, I was talking about reacting less. And that's when I saw that people were really engaging, because, you know, we come across drama on so many occasions, and we never really know how to react. And that prayer is very short and sweet, and it talks about, and when you pray tonight, pray to stay calm, you know, because people will always trigger you in public, and they never really know how you react, that it's because somebody did something to you, but they will judge you based on your reaction and not what caused it. So you must always stay calm.
Okay, and give us a sense of the, you know, you said there was lots of engagement or traction you were getting, right? How did you know that, hey, this thing's like, goodness, this is like seriously impacted? I mean, what were the numbers that were telling you that?
Well, before I began the whole series, well, I mean, my phase of my downs, I I was, I think, around 100 and something thousand followers, because already I have a footprint on social media, since I'm a social media influencer. But then when I started posting every now and then, I would gain over 5,000 in a day. And people would retweet and comment and like, because it's one thing for, users to just like, but it's another when they actually engage. And I would see how people actually interact within the post themselves, encouraging each other and, just giving that shoulder to cry and to say, everything will be fine. It was more of like a community. And I realized that, I'm really onto something, because even on days when I didn't post, because obviously I'm not going to post every night, but it was more of most of the nights. When I go through my DMs, I would see so many people asking, are you okay? What are we praying for? You understand? So it moved and shifted from it being about me to now me trying to be the person that somebody would have wanted to have at that time when they're going through a specific
And the type of prayers, were they it sounds contradictory. Were they religious prayers? And if so, what type of religious prayers?
No, not necessarily religious, but it's more of a motivational
I understand. Okay.
book, to tell you what to pray for. If you want to really go deep into religion and, sort of quote scriptures, yes, it does apply. But I kept it as short as it is, and to make sure that, it accommodates everybody.
And it just shows you the impact that you've had. So now you've turned out the book very quickly, and the book is called?
And When You Pray Tonight.
Exactly as how you started it, and your X profile. Just give it to us as well, because you now got one extra listener or extra follower actually, which is me.
Oh, amazing! It's Ausbase. It is Ausbase.
So AUS Aus, right? BASSRE on X.
Yeah.
Okay, fascinating.
Correct.
What's how do you think the book is going to impact? How has it impacted so far?
Well, all I can say is I became the bestseller within 2 months of debuting book. So it's really doing amazing numbers for a self-published person, because I'm not signed under any book house. So I literally distribute the books myself, and I can see how many people are really in demand of the book. Even I ship internationally even.
Okay, well, tell you what, I'm following you now, and maybe your next tweet is how to write a book that sells. So think about that. Basitsane Moketsi, thank you for your time. Social media influencer, author, and somebody who dishes out advice for you when you have some difficulties, and she's been supremely successful at that. Let's wrap up by the biggest story of the day, the one that moves the national pulse, that one that has sort of driven the attention the entire day. It's Julius Malema referring to Jimmy Manyi and suggesting there'll be more.
Jimmy Manyi has also resigned to go and join MK. And there will be many others who are going to leave the EFF.
Okay, well, now we know that, right? And as you know, later on, he said even more about the tribulations the EFF faces, and we need to fight back. We can't die. It's a fascinating political plot scenario that's played out. So here's the question: what's your pulse rate right now? Let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again.